That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that got, oh my goodness, I'm still seeing some things in the chat as everyone's rolling over.
Yeah, I gotta pull up the chat right now.
Yeah, you can't read. Some of those are going to get blocked, everybody. I mean, this is a family show here. Don't get yourself timed out. Have a little bit of fun. We'll let everyone matriculate on over into the new chat here. Like, obviously, if you haven't figured it out by now, it's not a half day. The market's going to be open for the next couple of hours here as we get into it's Christmas Eve, it's New Year's Eve, and the market is not looking good. Obi, we just made a fresh low on the Nasdaq. Tesla just broke the low of the day, 407. Wow. Nvidia just broke 134, low of the day. I mean, pretty much everything I'm looking at is blood in the water.
Blood?
What did you say?
Blood?
It's like, no,
where that's from?
It's the scene in 40-Year-Old Virgin where he's like, and if I take the knife out of my sheath, I cannot put it back until it draws blood.
Oh, okay.
You know that guy?
Yeah. I know where that's from.
So what are you thinking?
I'm thinking, so it's like, I think it was like, I don't know if it was a Vine, but like really old meme where like
Vine?
This kid is like, his little baby brother is like bleeding. So he's like showing his parents. He's like, "Mom and Dad, blood." That's what I remember.
Okay.
And he's tripping out because it's blood, because it's like red, and he's like, "Oh, blood." I don't know if you guys know where that's from, but no. That's
Are you hitting the fail?
Whenever I see the market like that, I'm just like, blood. Yeah.
Well, the market's been bloodied up a little bit here today. No, it hasn't been that good, and obviously, look, you can make money.
Pullback.
You can make money going in either direction.
Oh yeah. Both.
So the ES 0.6 at lows. So the S&P is actually at the lows without breaching yet. I want to say yet. You're just trying to bounce here. Oops, I went the wrong direction. It's usually, see, I do this. Usually I have the NASDAQ and then the ES, and I kind of bungled it today. But the NASDAQ already broke below yesterday's bottoms and just took out, actually bouncing back here off of the actual low, 1% to the downside. It's been a pretty hefty bleed in here, everybody. So a lot of times we'll talk about this. It's not a holiday shortened session, but obviously with a holiday tomorrow, you might get a little bit less volatility going into the close. I usually don't want to overtrade, but I look at like Tesla's breaking the low of the day. There might be a chance at a couple of salvos. The only trade I am in is Rigetti, and I gotta kick myself because I said I wasn't going to put myself in the position of wanting to revert one of these names and not pay for the shorts. Yep. And then when the moment happened on Rigetti, I actually didn't have the locates. So I was kind of a bit of a sucker. I said I was not going to do this mistake. And when it reverted through 16, I missed the punch through 16. I ended up shorting it back through the low of the day here. It's the only thing I'm left in. If it takes out this prior bar high, which is like 1588, I'm just going to jump out of the trade because I should have been short at the 16 even as this is trying to come back in. Oh, we already have a super chat. We're starting it early. Grubs in the chat. Happy New Year, guys. So what do you guys do in this situation when the market is down in your personal accounts? Sell or hold forever? Water. So your drink of choice is water. Shout out to you. Be nice and responsible. Like everybody be responsible tonight. Just have fun. Do you. Spend time with family and friends. That's what it's all about. So in my personal account, when I see the market down like this, the first question I ask, I'm not that young, but I'd like to think that I got some time left before I need any of my retirement money. Whatever, you never. But anyways, I look for a buying opportunity. Like, what are the stocks that are within range of what I want to buy? I don't look to dump. I might take out things every now and then, sell 5% here or 10% there of something that I think has gone too far that is in my long term, but I'm generally not panicking in a situation like this. Like I like to get out the shopping list of, hey, in the next downturn, what's the stock that I'm looking to buy? And is it at any levels that I wanted to? Like this happened the other day on Walmart. Just as an example, to answer your question, like when Walmart was doing its initial pullback, this was a stock I wanted to be a little bit of a bigger weight in my personal portfolio. So when it did this little bounce, I just kind of picked some up at 89 when it was a little bit of blood in the water, and I'm planning on DCAing into this a little bit more next year. So if it loses the 50 period, I don't mind getting back into 84. Like, what's a stock that you're willing to take at the current levels? Like it's a very big difference that, and like Tesla. Like Tesla, I'm not buying any more Tesla shares until we at least test back into maybe the 340 level. Yeah. This looks it's distinctly different. I don't put that in the same bucket as say a Walmart, which is a little bit different. You just got to have these stocks in there, the ones that you're comfortable at current levels and the ones that you might be a little more patient and waiting with. And we don't mind answering a bunch of questions here if you like. I just saw this one, BTCT, is it halted? I haven't pulled that up. I literally just pulled it up now. Quick answer, no, just the stock isn't moving. So there's a big difference. It's not halted, it's just literally doing nothing here on BTCT. So certainly you're going to find some opportunities for halts because there are small cappers that are moving, but the stock isn't that liquid and not doing anything. But yeah, lots to watch. Oh, you just got Palantir, 76.50.
Yeah, it kind of just like it dropped down to day low and bounced 3 pennies off the day low.
It's not right.
What?
It hasn't traded at that price.
Oh yeah, what? There's no.
That's impossible.
That blotter is incorrect.
Yeah, that can't.
I am along 76.04s.
Yeah, I was gonna say it never even traded there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have to refresh the position board.
Yeah, no. I think 76.48 was. Did I get that earlier? Maybe. Yeah, I think so. I think that might have been earlier.
That would make sense.
That's still on the thing there. But yeah, no. Got out of Palantir going into around noon there as it kind of it was holding higher lows there as the market sold off. So I kind of switched along from the short idea in the morning. That short was definitely kind of the better play as it comes into 77 halves. Can't even make it to 77.60s here. That prior kind of high there, and then breaks back down back into 76s. So a bit of a range action happening here. So that I'm looking to take more of the same. If it's going to come back down into this area around low a day and catch a little bit of a bid, I'm more than willing to get involved and give it the appropriate risk. Now, obviously not as aggressive as the morning session as of right now, but yeah, let's see what this market brings us. And yeah, no, market is down on the day. We were talking about kind of consolidating and shopping around within range in the first couple of hours there, and we finally got that crack coming into literally as soon as we got off. The market cracks below its low of day, opening range lows as well, and takes a strong kind of a flush to the downside here, trading all the way down to 21.2s. Start off at 21.5s. Oh boy, that is a 300-point run on or a flush, run down, whatever you want to call it, on the NASDAQ. So yeah, a lot of these tickers looking like they're range trending to the downside. Let's see if we can break any of that range for a potential reversion. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see, but we've been trending down. I guess if you count if you count it off of the open there, roughly until now, we've been trending down for about 4.5 hours here since the open, and continuing to make lower lows and lower highs going into the end of the year. So could be interesting. And yeah, these, the boys were right. Definitely going to be looking at the close today. Let's see if there are any sort of special imbalances that show up near the end of the year. You never know. You got to stay strapped, got to stay ready for... What do you mean? Like,
you just stay strapped.
Because you're hunting for opportunities. You're hunting for
Hunters don't stay strapped.
I mean, you're out in the bush and a bear shows up.
I mean, that's not the term. I'm pretty sure.
What I mean?
I'm not gonna pretend to call myself a hunter, but I'm pretty sure that's not the terminology. Yeah. I'm just gonna go out and throw that one out there. I'm just saying.
All right, so I think Sharif is ready for the rundown. Yeah,
that's gonna be fun.
The block is hot. The block is hot. There's lots of opportunities. You gotta, okay. So you gotta have the quiver ready. How about that? You gotta have the quiver ready to pull out your arrows.
Well, I would do this, but I don't want to get flagged by the NFL for an excessive or inappropriate celebration.
Oh damn! Is that a thing that happened?
The NFL. We'll get the stream in a second. But this is what kills me.
This is a game where people literally
in a game where people are literally just knocking each other out. There's even a moment where they some guy got fined for a dirty hit, and then if you went to the NFL's X page, they had a highlight video that they tweeted out, right? And the actual thumbnail was the hit that they fined the guy for. It's this is an illegal hit. We're gonna fine him $20,000 or whatever. And then that was the thumbnail they used for the league highlight package that week. It's the hypocrisy that goes on, and they can do whatever they want because they're billionaires. But come on, son. What are we
reason to fine? apparently.
Yeah, well, they just like being a no fun league. They take off your helmet, it's a fine.
Yeah.
Point in an inappropriate manner, and it's a fine because it looks too much like something else.
Oh, come on.
Anyways, let's see what you guys wanted to
90s.
talk about here, because I could go on and on about how ridiculous the NFL is, except for when my Bills are winning, and then everything is fine.
Give us a rundown, Sharif.
Joe just...
She put me like on the thing, no worries. All right, well, welcome to the Afternoon Rundown, the show where you decide what we talk about every afternoon. Obi in for Sean today. Neil locked and loaded and ready to look at the takers as decided by you. So make sure to join Joe and I during that How to Trade show during the midday and get into the chat and vote for your favorite takers every day. Here's a look at the NQ off the lows, down about 2/3%, followed by the ES down about 1/3% last time I looked. We'll keep an eye out on the major averages, but all selling off here on the last trading day of the year. Let's look though at the first taker as decided by you guys, NVDA. What a way to finish off the year. It usually makes it to the top. The last day of the year, no different. Down 2% today, but it was added here to the top 10 tech AI winners for the Revolution in 2025 list. That is a little list made by Danny Ives of Wedbush, so we'll keep an eye out on that. Some notable exclusions from that list: Amazon and Meta Boys.
Well, I guess you can't have them all.
Don't leave out Amazon.
Well,
Why you gotta go and do that?
because you can't have every single. You just can't put all the Mag 7 names in
that's
there.
true.
Like, that would be, what kind of a list is that? It's like,
Some
okay,
of them
well,
are too powerful.
be different.
Amazon.
You got to be different. Amazon's that powerful?
I don't know. No, Amazon. I think they're doing pretty well. Doing pretty well. They're in a lot of different kind of industries. They're getting. I mean,
They got a good-
too big to fail almost. I would say. We'll see.
You could make the argument for a
lot of the Mag 7.
Yeah, a lot of the Mag 7 in that regard. Like, they're basically,
Google is
so
a
all of the
prime
Mag 7, like, they're all Taco Bell from Demolition Man. Where it's like one restaurant to rule them all, and it's like one company to rule them all in whichever space they happen to be in. And rule number one, if Amazon comes into your space, you're screwed. If you're competing with them, then you look like CVS or, not to pick on them. But back to Nvidia, because that's what we're supposed to be talking about. Nvidia down 2 points, loses a 50-period moving average. It just feels like even when you get a strong day like yesterday, the complaint would be, why not still be in it? I did that thing where I'm going to trail out down here, but I'll add to it because I'm going to trail at that price anyways, and then ended up getting out and should have just gone right back at the same price. What it's doing now is on this 15-minute, that's about VWAP. It's trying to close above trend since the afternoon. So like if you just take the afternoon trend and since VWAP, it's trying to close above the trend line. But all it's done is double bottom. So round tripped it without getting back into 140 there on AMD. I would submit that NVIDIA's chart looks at least better than, NVIDIA's chart looks better than AMD, and NVIDIA's trying to revert it right here. So if we're gonna have some kind of a push in the afternoon, I feel like NVIDIA's got to do a bit of a job here, close this 15-minute above the trend line. We're not gonna talk about Apple, so I'll just maybe do it here. Apple, I just typed AMD because like I have AMD on the brain for some reason. It's like the third time today. Apple needs to hold on to the 250. I was with Sharif where I was taking this long off 250. It was good till it wasn't. It was a nice scalp trade off of 250. I think it couldn't break 250.80 was about the high. So you're maybe getting 50, 60, 70 cents at best. And it needs to hold above 250. But higher lows on Apple, Nvidia trying to go, both of these trying to claw this market back to the upside. They're all doing their part, but there's not a ton of follow through. Volume very, very low, which is expected. No over trading. This is the kind of day where you want to make your money in the morning if you can, and if there's something there that sets up really well in the afternoon, so be it. But you don't want to have an LFT on New Year's Eve. Kind of sours the party if you're going to one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the party is definitely a little bit to the downside here. So stocks getting down on New Year's Eve. Seems like that's what's happening right now, and a strong trend, range trend to the downside. VWAP's given up across the board here, but absolutely beautiful nonetheless. You can see it's nice, methodic kind of waves, and the ebbs and flows of price action showing up very beautifully today across the board, and you can see that again. Prime example is Nvidia. Off of the open, it breaks, it attempts to break that opening consolidation, that little bit of a bounce that we got. We had VWAP kind of hold as a resistance there. It attempts to break out, can't really do it, comes back underneath VWAP, and then sells off, breaking that opening session range low, using it as a resistance, as a lower high as well. You can see that it's come in quite nice here. A bit of a trend to the downside. We're coming right back up into that as well, but range trend nonetheless. So are we poised for a little bit lower? I have no idea, Neil, but guess what? Guess where we just bounced off of? This is prior day's low right here. So a little bit of a double bottom there. Prior day on Monday, coming in at 133.92. Today's low, 133.83 as of right now. So let's see if that will give us any sort of a bounce, or do we kind of continue this trend? And again, very reflective of what the market is doing here as well. You can see both the NASDAQ and the ES looking very, very similar. So in the morning, we thought we were just going to chop sideways. We were trading within that opening range. Finally broke that coming into the midday, and we're getting that continuation going into the closing session of the day today. So curious to know whether that technically is weekly support, even though it's prior day support here on Nvidia, but we are catching a bounce off of it as of right now. So I'm curious to know what we do going into the close, but that consolidation on top of 21,200, I mean, staying within trend. Maybe we're poised to break that. I have no idea, but definitely something to watch out for. I missed out on some of these shorts for sure, coming in off of the open and going into the midday as well. But it is what it is. Where is the next trade, Sharif?
Exactly. Before we go back, I just wanted to quickly thank you to Gerson Lopez here. You've been a fan of the show for a month. Glad to have you on board. You're going to find it's a fantastic community, so pass it on. We got a lot of good and smart, educated traders that all like to help each other out here. Learn to day trade from you. And then because I said you don't want to run an LFT, and that's more of a term here at Real Trading, Matthew Horton was asking what LFT is. I did type it in the chat, but very quickly, it's just loss from top. So it's just whatever the highest, it's a pretty simple thing, like whatever the highest point you are at any given point in the market, realized gains, you don't want to have a drawdown from that. Now, the reason we use it here at Real Trading is when you're trading on a prop floor, you have like a net loss limit for the day. We also have an LFT limit for the day. So usually it's about 60% higher than whatever your net loss allowable is. So if you have $1,000 shutdown at Real Trading, your loss from top would be $1,600. So that means at any given day, if that's your parameter, if you go down $1,000, you're then shut down. You go into closed orders. But let's say you're up 2,000 and then go back down to 400, then your loss from top is 1,600. That can also shut you down at Real Trading. So it's a term that we use around here. I find oftentimes, like, it's not that you never want to have an LFT, but I've seen it spiral. And I often tell the story of a trader that was trying to get to, oddly enough, I was a trainee at the time. He was trying to get to like $1,000 to end the day, and he was at like 990 something. 1,000 shares for 1 cent is all he needed to do. Yep. So he tried to scalp that on a position and lost 3, and then he needed 4, and he LFT'd himself. And this all occurred in the last 20 minutes of the day. And in 20 minutes, he managed to go from up like almost $1,000, effectively he was there, to loss from top down. I think he lost like 6 bills from the top, and that was his LFT shutdown. So you try not to get yourself involved in any trades that aren't setting up. But one that did set up this morning, I also have to fail on myself for not having, was MSTR.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, continuing to go down here, Neil. 4 1/3 as it continues to move down near those days lows. MicroStrategy's having a bit of a tougher look, especially here that it's basically diverging from Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's levered play MicroStrategy witnesses divergence. Shares underperform Bitcoin as the company buys more coins by issuing these 0% convertible notes, boys. A lot of talk about this on X and the sustainability of this model.
Yeah, and so they have a big, obviously MSTR has they have a resolution to the shareholders to be able to issue, it's like, I don't know, it go from like 300 million shares to like, I don't know, 1 billion or whatever the heck the number is. I think it was actually like 10 billion or something even more ridiculous. But the thing about, it was a missed opportunity. We had been talking about how this is it's weaker, and when Bitcoin was making the rally, all the signs were there. So I guess I should start with, from the beginning, when Bitcoin was bouncing off of 92,000, that's the daily chart, and then I throw it up here in the morning. Like you were breaking back out after holding 92, you were breaking out and then holding a consolidation with 95. You had a stair step to the upside on BTC. Now, while that was happening, MicroStrategy was like, okay, let's just chill right here exactly where everything sold off in yesterday's trade. We all watched this happen starting at about just underneath $320. We all saw it. And when Bitcoin was breaking out 95, it was just doing nothing going sideways. Sometimes there's an A+ setup and you don't take it and you don't have a particularly good read. The reason was I was looking for small cappers today. You had that MLGO kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at Hollow and I was looking at Rigetti, and that's where I think I was focused at the open instead of what was an A+ setup. And we'll talk about this in the aftermarket show because Adara had this trade and we can go over it in detail. I did chase it down to the 300 for a breakdown trade, scalped some out, ended up trying to reload it for an L, but it was just a trend down. And until proven otherwise, MSTR is a short till it's not. So every time Bitcoin loses resistance or does a stair-step pattern to pull back in, this is usually the place that you want to be to the short. Even Mara, which is good to the short side, I don't think was as good today. Check that. I stand corrected. Mara was actually pretty good, but not quite percentage-wise. But the trade setup was just as easy. And yeah, it is just one of those things that's happening right now on MSTR. I know some people like the stock, but I think maybe until that shareholder vote passes and they can continue with their plan because they're in a bit of a stalemate if they're not able to issue more, maybe then it'll start catching a bit of a bid. But yeah, nasty for MicroStrategy.
Yeah, no, absolutely amazing trade off of the open there. So yeah, no, I know that Wayne definitely had this trade. Shout out to Adara for having it as well. We talked about this trade last like after the close yesterday. Again, aggressive kind of selling that came in off of imbalances and a bit of a gap up, and that's kind of why I took eyes off of this one. But definitely a mistake there. As again, yesterday it showed you that 320s was heavy going into the close. We bid all the way back up into that opening range high right there, and then again 318s, 319s as well become a strong place where sellers kind of step right back in off of the open. Same story. Right off of the open there, so you're taking a pre-market low break, you're taking a VWAP crack, you're taking some pre-market consolidation lows right there. You can see a bit of a shelf here at that 314 and some change as well. So multiple kind of places to kind of watch the book and execute. And the retest of VWAP as well. We've been getting a strong downtrend all the way back down. Trading below 300s now, 289.25s currently on MSTR. So absolutely beautiful there. And again, you get that market tailwind alongside you, and the trade is even more butter. So it's like, all right, so what else do you need to see to really get involved is the question that I was asking myself in the morning. I'm like, all right, well, you had this idea, but because it gapped up, you kind of totally tossed the idea out, but kind of take a bigger picture look at it. And instead of looking for that continuation off of a crack of this low right here, which I guess is coming in now, right off of the open, sellers step right back in where they showed you where they were, if I'm saying that correctly. They showed you where they were yesterday, and they came right back into the same prices right there. So if you were quick to act on that, the trade was definitely there, an absolutely beautiful continuation to the downside going into the end of the day. So a little bit of review definitely is going to happen on this ticker on my part, as I didn't participate in it at all. Definitely have had some good ideas on it, but zero fills. So great opportunity on MSTR today.
Tesla third on the list over here, down 2.5%, a little bit more as it works its way down into the low of the day. This headline, though, so we're going to get the delivery previews hopefully in January. This is slated to be their biggest delivery quarter yet. Expected over here, 506,763 vehicles essentially being predicted to be delivered. It'll be the first time, though, guys, that Tesla delivers over 500,000 vehicles in a quarter.
Yeah, and an impressive, and only Tesla can do. Just before we get to this, U.S. Steel is now up 7% on increasing volume here. Nippon Steel has proposed a new steel agreement to the Biden administration, according to the Washington Post. They've also proposed granting the U.S. veto power over any reductions in U.S. steel production capacity. This is all according to the Washington Post. I'm just reading it. there as well. I know I kind of I cut and pasted, so sorry for the all caps when I cut and pasted into the chat, but US Steel starting to power through. Now, obviously, this does not mean the deal is closing with Nippon. It's like a $55 deal. If that was the case, it probably would be shooting up and halting or something along those lines. But it is strong on momentum here. Prior high is right around this 33 level. So worth looking to see if it can hold on to 33 on any dip. I'm not going to chase it. I think I've seen this show before, and oftentimes it has ended up with a pull-up. But it's still catching a bit of a bid. Although I don't see a lot on the level 2. Certainly a lot of strength here in US Steel. So, whoops. Oh, that's what sometimes it happens. I hit enter before I type in NQ. So Tesla, I feel like we're going to be repeating ourselves with Nvidia here on Tesla. It's in a downward trend. It's a stock that has had an explosive move, but there's simply no denying what you see for this pattern down the last couple of days. The prior support, sometimes it flat bottoms and holds underneath the resistance level, and it's a clean short at the open, or maybe it tries to pop into the prior low and fades that level, and then the same level works again today. Whatever it is, it's just a continuation short trade here on Tesla as it's about to test the $400 level. So not a very good day for Tesla, down about 3 points. We'll see how much recovery it'll be able to have on. Let me just go to the daily chart, because I think on the daily you'll be able to see, when we were talking about this for stocks that you're looking to buy that are on your shopping list, like now that it's taken out this local support, I don't see why it wouldn't be headed for something in and around the 50 period in this 350 to 360 level where it broke away from previously. So it hung around here a long time. I think if we continue to lose a bid and break the 400, I think you could see that 350, 360 area on Tesla. 400 bid seems pretty possible here. Remember, it is light volume, but make sure you're sticking to the things that are moving. Oh, Rigetti. Don't tell me. I guess we'll get to that in a quick little second, but yeah, Tesla not looking good. Not much of anything. Oh, I did trade Rivian today, so I guess I should pose. This is the only time we ever talk about Rivian, is usually after Tesla's moves. This is the one stock that broke down, and I was like, yeah, I'm taking the VWAP short on one of these things that broke the high. It gave you the VWAP short. What am I still offering here? I didn't get this short on a mean revert, but gorgeous off of VWAP. This thing was flying like everything else, and then it just rejected like all these other gappers and squeeze names. They all lost the bid this afternoon and continue to bleed lower. I did have Rivian. It was a good short. Wish I could say it was Tesla, because Tesla probably could have been better. But yeah, the EVs, squeeze names, all of them red. And we just made another fresh low on Tesla. Again, 405 now.
Yeah, no, this continues to sell off. So yeah, kind of a grab of prior day's high. And surprisingly enough, take a look at this, Neil. That aggressive selling that we got on Friday off of the open makes a low in and around, what is that specifically, 426 halves. And then coming in the next day, you attempt to test that pretty cleanly as the day high is at 427. So 426 halves, 427, bit of a half a point push into prior day's lows, and then sideways chop. Coming in today, we kind of grab prior day's high right off of the open, 427.94, so like 1 point off of that, and then kind of hold underneath that VWAP for a downtrend, breaking below prior day's low as well. So a bit of a continuation, a trade happening here to the downside after kind of that high from last week being 469.76 from the pre-market session on Thursday. So beautiful continuation to the downside here on Tesla, as again the market creeps a little bit lower and lower. Let's see if we get that 400 going into the close today. I'm definitely going to be watching this one going into the close. If it's going to stay directional like this, maybe we get some interesting imbalances. But until then, seems like the trend to the downside is very, very strong, Neil.
Palantir made it on to Dan Ives' top 10 tech winners for the AI revolution in 2025. It's had a fantastic year, guys. But as with the overall market, it's down about 2.5% and coming into lows.
Just up there, the position board isn't exactly correct. I'm not in a position, so that's because I did get out of the Rigetti short. Mistake, that continued. Are you kidding me? Rigetti is now down 11% and just hit $15. Wow. Probably should have held on to that short. But Palantir, It's flat bottom broke. We were in the short early, and then it double bottomed. Okay, it double bottomed initially where we bottomed yesterday at that 76, but it just flat bottom broke that. So all of a sudden you could be consolidating underneath 75.70 or so. If it tries to bounce and can't get above 75.70, I'm not saying it fills in this gap, but it wouldn't be crazy if it did. On the daily, that's not going to show you anything that is beyond or before it went to the NASDAQ. So let me just quickly throw up a daily chart here. On the daily, Palantir is about to break trend. Let me just actually draw this for you guys. I don't usually draw trend lines on the old Trade Ideas one, but I'm going to do so now just so you can get an idea. Oops, I didn't select it properly. So there we go. And then this is what it is doing here. So if you draw the trend from there's the breakout, and there is this consolidation here, and then attach the trend lines, it's on that trend line right now. So this is a daily chart. So this is not like, oh, jump into the short right here, right now on Palantir, but it's threatening to close underneath what has been a secondary upward trend lasting since the middle of November. That's a pretty hefty trend reversal it could put on. One I suspect could take you back into the $60 area in the 50-period moving average. I personally would not even be considering buying Palantir until at least that, for sure, the 200-period moving average, but I don't think you see it. So big levels incoming here on Palantir. And if we do get a pop into 75.70, I'd be looking for the short.
Yeah, I think that's kind of that prior low right there, and we've been trending a little bit to the downside. I was looking for those sellers to show up at VWAP. They weren't necessarily there in the morning session as cleanly as I would have liked to see. But we got that bit of a double tap at that 77.5s area, 77.60s on that initial pop. What was that specifically? That was high of, let me just measure it like this, 77.60. Yes, so 77.60, 77.50, make a lower high. Then VWAP starts to hold, and now we're getting that bit of extension to the downside. Currently below some of these prior lows. But yeah, we are definitely at a bit of a key spot on the daily and the weekly as well. So I'm kind of watching this one, being a little patient here. But yeah, no, the blotter is definitely incorrect. That is not my average. My current average is 75.86 half. So holding it a little bit far there, but 75 incoming currently right here. There it is. 75s are the lows as of right now on Palantir. Oh boy, the market. Are we pushing a little bit lower? We just cracked that 21.2 as well, Neil. So this might be a little bit of a decision point here, but you can see that volume expanding as well coming into some of these lows. So let's see what we get off that 75. Looking back at it, bit of a chop and churn consolidation. So we do have a lot of kind of traffic in the way to the downside, but the last bid that we did get was last Friday. We bid all the way from 71s all the way to 80s here. So this whole kind of range, pretty interesting here on Palantir, but more, I guess, poised to drop a little bit further. Wow, look at that expanding volume. That's a lot of volume coming in on this candle.
This is intense.
Yeah.
By the way, U.S. Steel is still going higher. Wow. I actually am a little, yeah, it's definitely defying some expectations here. Just tagged $34. And it's continuing to rally. There hasn't even been a red candle. Like if you're looking for this is the pullback, this is where it settled, there hasn't been one just yet. And speaking of things that have pulled back, another one up there, Sharif, Broadcom. If it's been a good year for the stock, it doesn't mean it's been a good one today.
Certainly not, Neil. Down 1 1/4 coming into the lows from yesterday. We definitely held, as you can see there, the double top. The highs from yesterday were coming into those lows down 1 1/4. Should let you know that even though this has had a fantastic year, it's raised the interest of short sellers because the short percentage, the short float percentage, I should say, bumped up there from 1.7% to 3.66. Take traders about 1.84 days to cover. Still well small, guys.
Yeah, this is one that I think some people are probably looking to dip by because it's everyone. If you own the index, you own a bunch of AVGO or Broadcom, but it might not be in a lot of individual portfolios. I feel like when we start talking to you guys, it's not usually one that gets listed like the Nvidia. But I feel this one is another name. You're about to flat bottom break it, And you've seen so many of these patterns. Like it was a clean, like there's your head and shoulders. You could have, whether you were looking for shorts on, fail break on like Rigetti or Rivian or Tesla or Nvidia or AMD, this is just the same chart. Essentially, the difference is Broadcom hasn't broken yesterday's low yet. So there's a few things that are holding us up. Apple, Apple's still looking okay. Nvidia's holding 134, hasn't broken a fresh low. That's why the Nasdaq maybe hasn't taken that next leg. And same thing with Broadcom here. It's holding on to yesterday's bottom. So you have a few things while you're trending down. It doesn't look necessarily that bad. But watch out. If we start losing bids like this, I'm not saying there's going to be some kind of a panic, but if at the close you start to see the bid drop in the last 15 minutes, it could get a little bit hairy. Companies can't do buybacks in the last 10 minutes. There's not a lot of liquidity, and especially going into New Year's Eve. So I usually think people take profits, so that would usually be going back to the upside. But if a couple of these flat bottom breaks start happening, you want to be monitoring, and maybe you're not fighting any longs here. We're in a weird position that I don't want to short anything at the lows, especially when we keep holding and bouncing off of the bottom. And until something actually reverts a trend, I wouldn't touch it. Broadcom has a distinct downward trend, and you wouldn't be reverting that trend unless it broke like at least $1 from here. I think I got to back off of that. I'm actually eyeballing this Rigetti for a potential mean revert. I did cover my short, but now that it's starting to fill in the gap, I have the eyeballs on some kind of a mean reversion down around underneath the 15 level, if it can do that. But Broadcom, no trade. Don't usually look to trade it either. And, before I throw it to you, Obi.
Yes, sir.
There is a runner.
Ooh.
So there is something that is breaking higher, and it is that BDMD. Because why not the stock that's up? Why would anyone buy the quality companies at the end of the year that are all bleeding when you can buy BDMD, who I don't even know what they do? BDMD. This is where I'm going to cheat to look up the company. BDMD. Baird Medical Investment Holdings.
Oh.
With a market cap of $300 million, a float of $9 million, and up 670%. So this was a penny stock at some point recently, and now it's breaking out in a big way. So good look on Baird. I would strongly suggest taking profits. I cannot think of a small capper that hasn't had some kind of a fail break at the high of the day today. They've all been failing the highs and then pulling back in, so just be really careful. There hasn't been a lot of follow through, so good shout out on that BDMD. It is a nice little runner here.
Yeah. AVGO, not as aggressive of a downtrend as some of the other names that we're seeing here. So we kind of sold off of 237, 238 ish highs there from both pre-market and off the open, and trending down to about 232. So VWAP has been holding, but a lot more sideways than some of these other names. So interestingly enough, Happy New Year, Sharif. We shall see you later on this week. Happy New Year, Sharif. Take care, Sharif.
Oh, here he is.
I want to say Happy New Year to everybody. I hope everybody's safe, and we'll see y'all Thursday. Be safe and don't drink too much.
Appreciate you, Sharif. Or drink safely in your residence, and then you don't have to worry about being too. It's important. Like, make sure
So what you're saying is
Uber is a thing.
Go to bed.
Yeah, Uber is a thing. Everyone be safe. What did you just? Hold on a second. What did you say?
So I said, what you're saying is get plastered and go to bed.
Well, I mean, I didn't say that. I most certainly would never.
Nice.
I would never suggest that anybody. I mean, let's be real. Like, everyone has to be responsible. We're not here to advocate for, what? I'm just saying, just enjoy whatever it is that you enjoy with friends and family. And if you happen to be, can we come to my chart for a second? Because it only works if you look at my chart. And if you happen to have a little bit of fun on the side, and then that's perfectly fine. Whether it's Ron Zacapa is a friend of yours, or maybe you like the Kraken, then those things are perfectly reasonable. By the way, Rumble's taking it on the chin like everything else there. That's what I was just going to talk about Rumble, that's all.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Rumble. Bad stock.
Continue. Yeah, a little bit of a backside action on a lot of these names today here. Again, with the market bringing us in as well. So, yeah, some missed opportunities there. Did you guys see that? I don't know if there's something on the table there.
What was that?
No, I think it might have been just a subscribe. It tripped me out for a second. Yeah, no, AVGO. Not really looking as aggressive as some of the other names here is what I wanted to say. That X, Neil, is still going.
I cannot believe we didn't just go long.
That's pretty. That's hella strong there. I don't know the news specifically, but I guess reoffering a little bit of a deal there to the U.S. government.
Trying to make concessions, get the deal done.
Steel there. That veto might actually do it, because then that's like then they have full control. So it's like that's
it's a lot of power to give. Just to reiterate, just to go over it again and maybe repeat the story for anyone that isn't following, because I actually see it. Even Bloomberg's saying it now. Nippon Steel offered to give the U.S. government a veto over any reduction in U.S. Steel's production capacity in a last-ditch effort to get President Biden's approval for its takeover deal. So, obviously, that's going to shoot it up. The deal's at like $50-something. I think it's actually $55, so it clearly is trading at ridiculously under. But it just made a bounce off of that 33 level, so there might be a little something on the trend here. If this can hold on to 33, that looks good. But what I'm eyeballing myself, I think I'm only looking for mean revert trades where you can get in and out like a sniper, and I should have stayed in the short on Rigetti. But Rigetti's now testing 15, and it's got a sharp downtrend here. So as the market falls in, I do feel like this is starting to bleed. It's already filled in so much of the gap. If it gets to 14.5, I like that level. But if it just does a revert off the 15, break the trend line, I'll just take one shot at it, see if we can't get a curl off the bottom, maybe back into this 15.6 level, because this market is bleeding. I mean, Tesla continues to go lower here, Obi. Tesla's at 402. 402 for Tesla.
Okay, so we might get that 400.
Yeah, I think we might get the 400.
We're poised for that 400.
We are going to get the, whoops, I want my 15-minute chart
I'm watching
here.
it. I'm watching it over here. I'll pull up the tape for you guys as well here.
Oh, this is going to be bad.
Yeah. I have 404s trading currently right here. So let's see if we can get down to that 400 mark. Okay, well, there's a little bit of a bid. Let's see if that sustains. But yeah, well, within that downtrend as well, right? So market hasn't really broken that downtrend. Neither have any of these names here on the day. And yeah, let us know if you guys see anything interesting, anything worth talking about, and maybe even trading on your radars. There, and we can definitely take a look at those at that name, and maybe it aligns with my playbook, and maybe I take it as well. I don't know, but that U.S. Steel X is the ticker, attempting to push for another high right there, but aggressive kind of a run up there on U.S. Steel. So do I look for a reversion? I don't know. It is fresh news, and the volume is maybe starting to die off, but take a look at that relative volume. That relative volume is still expanding on that one there. So curious to know if this 21,200 will bring us a bit of a bounce across the board, but I'm not really seeing too much in terms of any crazy opportunity as of right now. So gonna, as Sharif likes to say, pack my patience to wait for the next trade. And yeah, let's see what you guys are saying. Charlie Taff saying, Obi, check out SMR on the daily chart. Seems to be at a good level for a potential long-term buy, question mark. I have no idea about long-term buys there, but we can take a look at SMR and take a look at whether what that level is and if it's any.
Are you in it? Do you own any nuclear names?
No.
This is the one I actually own. Sean and I are both in this one.
Which one?
Like
SMR?
Oh, so first thing, Rigetti did do the reversion. So this is the trend. It closed above the trend line. I'm in. I got one scalp out. Now it's right back into excuse me. Right back into lows. I couldn't get the mute button there as I was fighting it, but I'm in SMR.
Okay.
So like this is one that
you want to take a look at
this is one that I am actually actively watching pretty heavily. And let me show the weekly chart, because I feel like it's the weekly chart that I'm paying the most attention to for a couple of levels here on SMR. So you had the original high on the first move at 1680 on the weekly chart, and then you've got the 50 period at 13.7, and then you've got $10. So this is a stock where, to me, when I usually get into position and I start getting into a move, I'm long at the 13. I think a little bit worse than Sean. I have like a 13.30 or something like that, because I took it right in and around here. But if we get back, I want to be a buyer at the 50 period. I want to be a buyer at the 200 period moving average, because I feel like I want to be in this one for the longer term. But it's at a key critical point here at the $17 level. If we lose this, I think you get the 50-period moving average, and you want to respect it. It's a hefty pullback that has, on the weekly, like that's not a good candle. That's not a good candle, making fresh lows. There hasn't been any sign of a curl on a weekly chart, and if I'm looking for a long-term play, I'd rather look at weekly, monthly, maybe some daily charts in there. So not a good look for SMR, but I think it's starting to get into the zone that I'm at least interested in. So yeah, good luck. There's a few others in the nuclear space that have been doing okay. I mean, one of the worst ETFs yesterday was literally URA. Like it bled like 4.5 points to the downside on URA. So just be careful with that. So yeah, it's just some thoughts on SMR and the levels I'm watching. So Rigetti on the mean reversion is the new position. Wow, BDMD is, let's just say there's some good volume on this. Baird Medical Investments. There you go. Oh yeah, it only occurred to me right now. Baird, BD, Medical, MD. Yeah, okay. Took me a while to get that one. But once again, it makes a high on volume, and I've seen this with a lot of these small cappers. It's not really busting through that top. My concern would be, now that you've got a bit of a trend here, got this trend off VWAP, and now you've got a dip off the prior high, suddenly you've got something to revert off of. Looks kind of like this. So from VWAP, or I could have drawn it from there, would have looked better, but same thing. If it reverts this trend, if we never break out this high, and it just keeps on testing, failing that break without consolidating a bit above, then I think a reversion into VWAP, if it breaks the trend line, is going to be in play. And like everything else, we had super cheap locates on this, on BDMD. I'm not chasing any long moves, because every single one of these that I pull up, they just all have failed the top today. And they look like really nasty when they come back in. So I don't want to take any top breaks. Certainly won't on BDMD.
Yeah, so I'm watching a couple names there, and Uri Page is asking, will you start a weight training challenge with Sharif for 2025? He might be a few years earlier ahead, but I like a challenge. Why not? I'm down. I was actually thinking about maybe joining the gym again, but the thing is, like, there's actually a couple that are opening up. I don't know when their opening dates are nearby, like less than a 5 minute.
Yeah, there is a close one.
So I was like, all right.
I don't know if you know this about Sharif. He works out a little.
Oh yeah, I guess,
bit.
I assume.
Yeah, a little bit he does.
I mean, just maybe just a little bit. Yeah, skosh.
I'm just saying. I'm like,
He might lift a couple weights.
I didn't mean to laugh at that. I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, I know I'm not doing that. A, I'm old, and B, Sharif is a beast. He's a beast, dude.
Yeah.
Like, trust me. Like, trust me. Like, you don't want that smoke.
No.
He'd be good motivation. Like, that's probably a good guy to, like, go to the gym with. He definitely knows his stuff.
If there's anyone I want as a spotter.
Exactly.
That's my guy. My guy Sharif. So, yeah, no. So I was thinking about it. I was like, because the whole point, I kind of canceled my gym membership near my house is about a 25 to 30 minute drive one way, and I would spend an hour just on traveling to the gym and back. I'm like, this is not worth it. I'm already like scrunched for time during the day with commuting and everything, and like I can't spend an extra hour doing more commuting. So I'm not gonna do that.
The entirety of the reason I went with the home gym.
Yeah.
And this was early on in my trading career, because I was just like, no, like I don't want that whole back and forth. And I used to work out at a gym in university, and then when I started trading, my career as a trader, my ex at the time, like my girlfriend at the time, was a personal trader in a studio. So I would go to that studio, which was actually really close to our place. So I could get there in a couple minutes, and then I could work out for free, which is, I was used to working out for free. Then all of a sudden, this notion of paying and having to travel to go to a gym, I'm like, my time matters to me.
Yes.
So I just started, and it's an easy enough thing to do, because the way I see it, like most people, 99% of people, their goals aren't to look like a bodybuilder, in which case you don't need a heck of a lot. Like, trust me, I don't care what anybody says about like this program or that program. Man, you get yourself a pair of adjustable dumbbells, a yoga mat, maybe a couple bands. Yeah. You're good to go. You don't even need weights. You can just do body weight stuff and get everything.
That's what I was doing at home, right? I was like, I got a pull-up bar, and I was like, I started doing some yoga. I started doing some calisthenics as well, and some just basically body weight exercises. and that was good. But I kind of fell off that a little bit too now. So I'm like, maybe just to get back into the routine.
Exactly.
Because gyms sometimes give you motivation, and you know, like again, when it's like the environment. The environment definitely gives you a strong sense of motivation and maybe a little bit of a sense of discipline and what's
Who hit that button on OB?
the word I'm looking
That's
for?
what I want to know. So,
Sense of responsibility.
you know that
maybe?
that just
the word?
happened?
Yeah.
First of all, the first thing after that happened, the first thing Ramin said is, "It wasn't me." And then Fabian threw his hands up like that.
okay.
I'm like, okay, there's only two of you over there. Can we put the camera on Fabian and Ramin for a quick second? You don't have a camera on you?
Oh, nice. All right.
Anyways,
well, you know
our
what?
production
After I
crew's
hit the
having
gym,
fun.
guys, watch out. I'm gonna be flexing on those haters.
As you should be.
No, I'm joking. But yeah, no, I guess that's kind of a thing here. Oh, New Year's, right? So I have a question for y'all. What are your New Year's resolutions for trading? Right? What are you guys working on for your in terms of your trading? How has your trading been this year? Are you guys how do you guys do? Do you guys do like a reflection at the end of the year? And if you guys have been kind of journaling and tracking your progress, how has that been going? Leave it in the chat. We can take a look at a few of those things. I think personally, for me, I think I will try to. I will be working on methods to actually effectively execute some of the ideas that I do have, because a lot of the ideas this year that I did have, I kind of end up missing out on, or being like, oh well, it didn't specifically do a certain thing. For example, that MSTR today, right? Yes. MSTR, pretty solid opportunity, and I'm like, oh well, I was looking for the continuation. I didn't expect it to gap up. So I didn't take it. I was like, that's not a good enough.
I love
excuse.
some of these here.
That's not a good enough excuse. So something like that.
We've got some good ones in the chat. I'll ignore Reg here, who's like, drink more. No, we're not talking about that. T-Money, buy high, sell low is your resolution. That's a good one, obviously.
That's good. Yeah.
No man bun chart setups. That's another interesting one.
I don't know.
But I like go explore. Cut losses quickly. You know, like that's the kind of thing, like cutting losses earlier. I'm gonna show you guys a note that I made, and I'm gonna leave the typos in there. Obviously, I'm going to correct this, but I have a pin. There's a few things that I kind of just throw things out there sometimes just to remind myself, and you can use like the notes thing in GChat or Google. Never short pop into the market open. That's an easy one. So like in the last 5 minutes, if a stock is popping into your level, I'm not gonna take the short at like 9.29. I think that's an easy one.
Okay.
Into
the open.
Like, I wouldn't mind being in a pre-market position, but if it's between 9.25, and I know sometimes it works, Sean does it all the time. I just don't like it because I've been burned a few times. Because what'll happen is if it then runs your stop on the open, then you might get slipped way more, and your risk to reward isn't as good as you want. This is poorly typed, so I'm just gonna always give market move until I can't even type that right. Until turnaround off of previous levels, right? So that's a take the stair step trade. If you get an open move and there's like an obvious prior day support level, you've got to hold it to that level. If you get something right at the open and you've got it dead to rights, then you want to make sure you hold it to try to get that move at least to the expected move of the prior day if there's a key level. And then this is a big one. If there's a safe retrace that's weak with no retest, I have to hold at least 50% of the position through the pre-market low. So that's one of those like, and I'm going to show here, whatever, re-enter it on the failed top break, give it more room. Simply, if it's a pop and fade and I get wicked out, get back in and give it a little more room, and always watch the trade hall page for new ideas. So one of those probably requires a little bit of explanation, and I'm going to use Rivian as an example. So Rivian, here's the example I'm getting at. If something, maybe even a 15 minutes going to be better here. If a chart looks like this, look at the failed breakout on Rivian. So this is a failed break. The reversion comes in. The trade I make is a VWAP trade. So when I go back to the 3-minute chart, what I'm kind of getting at is to take this trade, I actually want to do better. Like I don't want to have, when it breaks this, I don't want to have 10% to trail out. My goal is to have 50% of the trade still when it gets to this level. That's what that note means. Because it's an A+ setup, it's a false break of a multiple prior high, and then it's a continuation off of that level where the risk was like 7 pennies. So you can scalp some out here. I don't mind any of that, but the idea is to have half the position when it gets to this prior low. That's one of the resolutions I happen to have, and I see a lot of those in there, obviously. Gulam, yes, the market is closed tomorrow. Yep. So it's a full day today. We have an hour left in the market, but the market is closed all day tomorrow for New Year's. That's why the volume isn't as good as you would like. And again, that's why I looked for only like these mean reversion trades. So always have a reason for the setup. There was a new trend. I did get out of this, probably silly decision, but when it rejected 16, lower high, there's the reversion candle, there is the close above the trend line. So it's just a simple close above the trend line, enter ideally right there at 15, above 15, 16. We got 18s. Stop is at the prior bar. You can give it to either the low at 1501. I use the prior bar because you're against the grain. So about 10 cents worth of risk. Now all of a sudden it has to break the trend or get to 16 even. 16's where the target is because that's where the trend developed. So if it breaks that trend or gets to 16, that's where the out is going to be on Rigetti. If I don't see setups like this, then I'm not taking them this afternoon. Again, don't want to have any LFT. Here's another good one. We've got, it's Dirt's Key 1. Dirt's Key 1. Focus on the right side, the right trade and ideas. Creating time and opportunity nightly to review. Those are fantastic ones.
Yeah, I like that one.
In all the years I've been trading, you need to like the markets and you need to have a passion for it and want to do this so that you're putting in the effort for it. However, from what I've seen, almost everybody that has those qualities and you just have any intelligence level, you can read a chart, basic numbers, anybody with that passion usually doesn't have trouble coming up with winning trade ideas. Like, oh, they can find you some winners, no questions asked. Then you look back and that was a great idea and that was a great idea. It usually just comes down to picking the right ones to execute on and having an execution strategy. Like, which ones do I focus on? And then executing properly on the ones that you do focus on. So that's the part that usually ends up hard for people, and that's not the hardest thing for people. Generally, that's admitting when they're wrong and getting out and having a wrong. So if I'm saying, okay, he might break the trend here. If we lose, this is the new trend since it reverted that trend. If we close underneath, I'm out. Otherwise, I give it the hold to there. Don't want to turn a winning trade into a losing trade, not at this time of the day. I'm just going to move my trail to underneath 1535. Make sure this cannot lose, and then we'll hold for a bigger move up. And now you've closed under that bar. So if we break this prior bar low, we're going to be out of Rigetti. And then look for the next opportunity, wherever that might be.
Yeah, no, I like that. Definitely got to put in some time for the things that you love, and of course, if you're here every day, then you must love the market. So putting in a little bit of time every day, and you don't have to grind out all of your hours in the evening, but a few hours goes a long way, and effective efforts definitely go a long way, and that's another goal of mine as well. It's like, all right, you're putting in a lot of time, but is that time efficient? Is it effective? Are you using your time wisely in terms of okay, well, maybe watching as much tape may not be as beneficial if, again, your like Neil said, execution strategy definitely matters. And another goal for this year for me is like cleaning up execution strategies and having more specific execution strategies for the types of trades I want to take, given different nuances. Like, all right, cool. If we're looking for the opening drive long, what are the different possibilities of it acting in a certain way? And then if it does act in certain ways, what are the executions I'm going to use to apply to the chart in order to get long on the ticker? So you can be like, all right, well, if it holds pre-market lows, I'm gonna get an X% of my position, my intended position. If it continues and holds VWAP, I want another execution there. And if it breaks pre-market highs, maybe I want another execution there. And kind of having that execution set in itself, and then having a set for the setup, and then what execution set are you going to use on which setup as well. Kind of cleaning that up as well is going to be a big goal for this year. And I've already been kind of working on it, but getting better and getting a little bit better and improving that process is definitely going to be one of the main focuses of this year as well. Let's see. I need to focus specifically on the stocks I need to be trading that day. You'll struggle just to follow anyone blindly. Yeah, exactly. You got to come up with original ideas and then come up with your original execution kind of structures for those ideas to really kind of, I would say, to really perform well, right? If you kind of go through that journey of discovering those things, you find structures and ideas that might align with your personality, and you'll have fun trading them as well. You'll feel a lot more natural trading them as well. So yeah, a lot of good stuff there.
That's a great point on personality.
Yeah, it has to match your personality.
Because I think that's one of the reasons why I like, and I know you like this. I know you like the actual like trend line mean reversion setup.
Yeah.
One of them is because when I started trading, I used to I had a bit of a habit and a problem with drawing trend lines when I started in in 2003. Like if you saw my charts back then, it wouldn't be like I was like on Rigetti, like I might have like one trend line in here, but I would have them all up and I would just like, they'd just be all there. Like I'd have one here and I'd have one there and I'd have another one there and I'd just leave them all. And then by the end of the day, and I'd leave them for multiple days. So like by the end of a week, if I was trading a stock, like it would just be a complete mess. You couldn't even see any of the bars. But what I like about this particular setup, and there was a question, and I hope I answered it correctly well enough because I was asked, why did I get in exactly at that moment on Rigetti? And it comes down to, if I'm looking for a long around a particular price area, what I've found is because I like to get in, ideally, one entry in, one spot to get in, and then have my stop. That suits my style. It suits the way I like to trade, ideally. So that's what I like a little bit better. And so looking for that bar to close, I'm using a 3-minute chart, looking for it to close, breaking the trend line, and then open up higher, try to grab the long in here, knowing my stop is going to be one of those two levels. It takes all the guesswork out of it once you develop a strategy like that. And Charlie Taft, no, they were not paper charts back then. We had real, believe it or not, Sean and I used to trade on computers. We had keyboards and everything when we started out. It was fantastic.
You guys wait for the tubes to warm up on your PCs?
I mean, sometimes. You know what was wild though? When we had our own trading floor, this was back in the day. You still had to, like, if we had an issue on a particular gateway,
yeah,
there was like an I don't know what the word is. Not a Rolodex. We had a little piece of paper that sat there with like a bunch of numbers on it. So like it was like ARCA and like even like the dark pools. And I remember a day where there was a certain dark pool that went down. And I happened to have, I mean, let's just say I had a lot of orders. I don't want to get into I had a lot of orders out anyways. And so they're down. And I remember like you're trying to get through to them to try to cancel your orders. Like you had to get on the phone. So I'm old enough to actually remember some of that.
Wow.
Which was wild. And that's not a fun position to be in, by the way.
No, that's hella scary.
Like your execution went down on the nice. Obviously that's not
that's a classic
well done.
Photo. I think
classic photo.
Yeah. I think I was a fetus at that point.
They wouldn't have let me on the floor. Anyways, that's a nice suit that Sean's got on there. I'm right there on the floor. See, I'm trying to represent, man. Not a lot of brothers on the floor apparently back then. So you can obviously see. But yeah, and this Brennan. Why is Brennan in a tuxedo? Is that a tux? That doesn't even make any sense. Why would they? No one wears a tuxedo on the trading floor.
I mean,
it doesn't make any sense there.
You see some spiffy attire on in some of those older photos.
And of course, I'm like chillaxed, and Sean is like right in there. Buy, Mortimer, buy. Get in there and buy. Trading Places is fantastic. One of the more unrealistic trading scenes. If you've never seen it, it's incredibly unrealistic representation of what would happen on the floor, especially with the price action. It's like orange juice futures dropped like 80-something% in a few minutes, according to that movie.
Wow.
But no, that wouldn't do it. But yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, Sean's holding up the sticky note, says Scott H. Elon says AMD reversal. I'm only in the one trade, so we can look at just about anything you guys want. That's a nice reversion off 120. AMD in 120, nice reversion.
Yeah, I tried trying to catch a little bit of a bid
121 here.
Market trend is breaking as well.
Let's go.
Trying to break. Let's see how well that happens. I guess my position's not showing up there, but I still long 75.57s here on Palantir. We're trying to push up into 76s here on a bit of break of trend, I would say. There, VWAP all the way at 76.59, Neil. So I don't know if we're going to get all the way up there, but let's see if we can get a bit of a test of that dollar there. Okay, so there you go. Yes, this is correct now because I got out a little bit of a piece here on my position. So now it is correct here as we push up into 75.88. It's a bit of a held offer there on an EdgeX 150 lots. See if you can take Buddy out here for a spin. If that order gets taken out, let's see. With the market catching a little bit of a bid back towards 21.3s, I'm looking for that 76 print if it'll have me there. But yeah, let's see. A bit of a hold there. Start off at 76s, and I was like, oh boy, we're coming down there. So I didn't necessarily stop out, which is again something I got to work on. But sometimes I know I'm not in everything I want to be in, and I'm not risking too much until it actually kind of comes into a level that I like. And I guess getting a little bit lucky at the same time here with this pushback up into 76 is going into the close as well, right? So let's see if we get that something here. I hear Wayne saying FFIE. Oh boy! All right, so you know what, Palantir, it's been a good one. I'm gonna get out of that right there. Thank you. Come again. Let's go check out what FFIE.
Oh,
is
you know what you could have
X
done.
is pushing back up. All right.
X gonna give it to you.
X is definitely giving it to us.
BDMD just broke the high of the day.
Whoa.
And so while I was waiting for it to break trend, it did not. It held trend.
Wow.
There you go. It just held trend, bounced off $8. It just took out another fresh high. I just heard FFIE in the back. Oh, Wayne. Okay, so first of all, when Wayne yelled out in the back FFIE, I did think I was going to pull up a stock that was going higher. So apologies for anyone that's holding FFIE stock. The future is not looking good for them, but your future could be looking fantastic for you if you wrap up 2024 with massive savings from Trade Ideas. Right now, exclusive to Trader TV, viewers will get 25% off any subscription with code TraderTV25, or go big. You can get 30% off the premium annual using TTV Prem 30. TTV Pre-M 30, both valid through January 3rd. Don't miss out on these New Year's savings, and let's crush 2025 together. Shout out to Trade Ideas. Scan the QR code you see in front of you, or click the link in the description. I'm guessing Wayne is short Faraday futures.
Funny enough, that's the only ticker that I borrowed this morning, along with you.
Yeah,
you might have borrowed a few more there, but we were just like, okay, well, yeah, this one might be right. But this was the ticker, right? We borrowed FFIE this morning.
it was FFI.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, so many stocks had this exact same set. Whether you pull up Rigetti or Holo or Faraday, every single, with the exception right now of this BDMD, or maybe something you guys found something else, it was the same thing. And this is one you've got to be very careful when you have a gapper doing this. This is not a Christmas tree, but
I like that.
Yeah, it's kind
a little bit of a red and green,
Christmassy
green holiday season.
But it was showing you the dump in the open, man. Yeah. Pulled into VWAP, failed $5 at 9 o'clock. Came into VWAP at like 9:10. Consolidated at 9:30 and immediately dropped. It tried to retest this 440 level where it had consolidation and dumped again. Now, maybe you're not short here, but certainly that short and that short look fantastic. All right, I just got out of Rigetti, but okay, let me finish the thought here, because if you start thinking about where it might catch a bid, prior low $2 and then down here like $1.60 if there's going to be a secondary salvo. We kind of warned people about this in Mullen. So hopefully no one got rinsed on those. So I'm out of Rigetti. It reverted the reversion, for lack of a better term. So the trend that we got in on the trend break, we got out on the trend break. Wanted to give the last little bit more room. But hey, if it wasn't going to follow through, ultimately the stock is down 10%, everybody. So it's not like Rigetti's having a fantastic day. Still some room to get to that 1450 on RGTI. But it looks to me like a temporary top on the quantum names. The next step would be, okay, now you've got a bit of a triple top here at about $18. Can it hold on to this 1450? Once, twice, third time through, can it hold on to that? And you got this, You've got QBTS, D-Wave, which, candidly, I'm not in it. My wife owns shares in the stock, so I guess my family has shares in this stock. Is another one where it's a little bit weaker, but the same principle. Failing a prior high, lower highs, trend down, and working its way back into prior support. You could pull up QUBT as well, and you'll find some of the same thing. But this BDMD seems like your afternoon runner. It's doing everything it can to hold above $9. I'm still eyeballing this. If it breaks the trend, I want to see if I can get the short. And just understand a day trade is a quick in and out, so it's not going to affect what happens to the stock. And if I get short, I'm very likely going to get it on a trend break here where I could have like a 790, and my stop would be tight, less than 50 pennies, and I'd just be out if it retook that prior high. What else we got going on here? JCB Sports Cards. Is anything having a fantastic day except the small cap weirdos? I don't like the VIX.
Hey.
I'm literally guessing.
There are so many plays on
UVXY.
small caps, right? Like
Moderna? Moderna's up 4%. See? There you go. That's not bad.
What is that chart looking like?
That's not bad. They just got the old boot from the NASDAQ 100. So, yeah, they were one of the ones that, well, it kind of, everyone was so focused on SMCI and Palantir that these guys got lost. So that's not that good of a day when you put it into perspective, but it's up a couple points. Some of the oil names are having a pretty solid day, like XOM's up a couple points. Load, there we go, like XOM up a couple of points, just trying to get off some local bottoms here for them. So yeah, a couple of energy names are doing okay, but it hasn't been a great long. Professor Loud, Oxy's doing amazing. Oh my goodness, did Oxy make that breakout? Please say no, please say no. And it did. I didn't set an alert for that break on Oxy. So this was the, it's so silly. Sometimes it's like that. Like you just get the best of yourself. No, I'm not talking about the 49.2. Actually, although it did break out pretty cleanly there, because you could have had this at like 49 even. It was a rounded bottom into a flat top. It then broke out. Then, of course, in typical fashion, what happens on a good breakout? It pulls right back into prior resistance, turns it into support, and continues long. So 2% for Oxy as well. A few things look pretty good, but there's not many standouts. Like, you find me a double-digit runner today that isn't a small cap.
Yeah.
Probably more stocks up, than doing things like BDMD than there are like solid medium cap names that are doing all right. So I keep having to redraw
so much opportunity on those small to mid caps.
Yeah, there's so many of them.
Like the fact that they're doing volume as well and the kind of liquidity that's going on. Again, I was observing. What was it yesterday? What was that ticker that pushed that $6 mark? Went up to like almost sevens yesterday with a breakout of 5. I can see the chart. I just don't know. I can't remember what the ticker was.
The one I'm thinking about was no, it's not the no.
It
was $2.
No, it was something good as well.
U.S. Steel.
Hollow. No, I think it might have been Hollow. I'm pretty sure it was Hollow.
Yeah, Hollow got smoked
day one or something like that. But I kind of realized like, oh boy, like the kind of liquidity and the kind of size you can be pushing on similar strategies that you can use, just price action kind of trades. If you like trading price action, which I definitely do, on small caps, and it's just watching the tape and realizing I'm like, oh boy, like taking like a breakout of that $5 into a continuation of 6, the amount of shares that are going through, giving you instantly 30 pennies, and there's blocks going off, tens of thousands of shares. It's not really dropping at that 30 pennies. We saw. Remember, I was like, it was the ticker that remember I was like, oh, there was a guy chasing. There's a 1K lot chaser, and I was like, oh boy, I don't have shorts for this, but as soon as he's done, I want to get short. And as soon as he was done, the top was made, and it pretty much failed. And it was one order kind of with 1K lots chasing on the bid, and the ask just running away. He's attempting to get out, and then as soon as he's done, as soon as he's gone, it just flushes. beautiful exhaustion kind of price action there, and it faded back down in towards sixes and even kind of broke down a little bit further going into the close. But yeah, things like that where stuff stands out, and I'm like, I don't really look at these small caps very often, but what I'm realizing by seeing that action, I'm just like, oh boy, like there's sometimes there's things that really stand out, and it can really give you an edge if you see things on the tape and you're like, okay, I think I know what this means, and I'm willing to put risk on and willing to put on the trade and give it like a reasonable amount of risk for when other players are offside. Right, and if you take a look at mid to large caps, you don't necessarily like players that are offside don't necessarily show themselves too frequently either, right? So it's like there's a lot of noise, and I think Eri Pages in the chat was asking, Obi, are dark pools all algo orders? I don't think so. Like traders have we have access to dark liquidity as well, and so do many other traders in the world.
Here, let me show you.
But yeah, we got access to quite a few different. Yeah, no.
I don't know why. I was trading of interest.
Neil's.
If you come to my screen for a second,
it's very extensive.
So this is
look at
this is the Nasdaq, and these are all my keys for Nasdaq.
Do you remember all those off the top?
There's a bunch that I don't use, but like, okay, that's a dark pool. I have used that one before. Where's some other dark pools in there? Like that's one of the better ones. There's another dark pool order. JPMX is a dark pool. LTSE, that's actually a new one that we have. So you just access to different liquidity. Yeah. Now, most of the time, like 90% of the time, you're using the same gateways on the same stocks, but every now and then you want to have something different. Like I'll trade other things on the side that are more like market-making strategies where you're getting in and out multiple times. I was showing you one of the charts of a stock that I was trading, kind of like half asleep today. It's just a penny stock. So I was basically I just noticed that there was somebody selling, so I used a gateway that gave me a favorable fee, and I was just shorting in front of the seller pretty much for the entirety of the day. I don't know why this is kind of stupid. Like I wasn't taking the long off it because I couldn't see a buyer, but it was clearly a buyer on the stock. It's just a penny stock. They just sat there in a very, very tight range. And I was able to sort of make money on it on the side. But with not a heck of a lot of effort, you need direct market access to do that, obviously. And you need access to all the different gateways. And US Steel's at 35, and probably a lot of people have some US Steel FOMO. 13%. 13%.
Damn.
U.S. Steel, and continuing. It's not like it's slowing down a heck of a lot.
I'm looking for the break of the bid, man.
There hasn't happened.
Okay, it has not happened. Like I'm like looking at the chart, looking at the price action, and be like, give me a reason to short. Nope.
I'm getting Spirit Airlines flashbacks in my.
Not happening.
The last time this happened, it was like Spirit Airlines was like a potential deal, and it got positive news. And I remember I was trading into the long side all afternoon, and then I got trapped. It halted with like 15 minutes to go, and I got caught, and it didn't open until the next day. And then I lost everything I had made that afternoon times 10 because it ended up gapping back down when there wasn't confirmation. So like whatever I had scalped in, that's part of the reason. Like for us, like it's probably not going to halt because I don't think that news is going to cause it to halt, but. Yeah, U.S. Steel is definitely the one this afternoon. I still have eyes on that BDMD because, as I said, I took one trade. It was a mean reversion trade on Rigetti, and that's what I'm looking for on BDMD. It's still hugging. This is the trend since VWAP. It's still hugging onto it on that 3-minute and just looking for a fail underneath this trend line, probably underneath like 850 or so. ISAW is asking, you're new. What is a dark pool? So that's a relatively simple one. So let me just go to the
opposite of a light pool.
Well, think of it like this. When you look at a level 2, which is indicating to the buyers and the sellers on a stock, like BDMD here, this is the bid on my left, which I guess is yours too. This is the bid, and this is the ask, and those are the actual buyers. Now this is 4 means 400 shares, and 22 means 2,200 shares. But you got the different gateways in here, and those are the actual bids. Those are the actual offers. So that's the lit market. What you can see, I want to buy shares. I put an order out there. I can either take somebody's offer and buy aggressively, or I can sit on the bid and hope to get filled. Any order that does not display but is actually to the market is called a dark order. And see all these D prints on the time and sales, which is the majority of them, those are all dark prints. Some of them come off in the midpoint. Other ones other ones will come off. Some come off in the midpoint. Some come at the touch or at the bid ask. But certainly they do represent an increasing percentage. Some stocks as much as 40%. On average, you'll see others that do more than 50% of their volume in the dark pool. We get some data every now and then here from Real Trading and our broker, what the biggest dark pools are in terms of volume, and to give us opportunities to know which ones maybe to use, because to access liquidity that is sometimes there. Like this stock has done BDMD, which I don't think I'm going to get this short. It's trying to pop up a little bit here. But if you look at the liquidity, it's on 80 million shares, but it doesn't look like it has that much liquidity. But there's tons of chunk prints going off for thousands in here, but you don't see thousands on the level 2. It's just all going off in the dark. And now it's just lost a bid there. And yeah, you got to be really quick. There was a moment in there where there was actual liquidity, and you saw most of it going on through the dark. So the lit orders weren't getting filled, and all the big chunks were in the dark pool. But this has now done the reversion. Probably missed that one. It wasn't that liquid in the lit market. Yeah, the market's going back up, so I guess maybe some of these small caps are going to come down.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I think Tyler B is asking who gets access to dark pools. I think if you're with a broker that gives you access, that'll work. If you trade with a firm, more than likely you might have some access as well. Here at Real Trading, like Neil just pointed out, yeah, we definitely have multiple ways to access dark liquidity if need be. But again, if your trading kind of revolves around momentum and removing liquidity, maybe you're not really even thinking about that, right? You're not really looking for that too much. But again, if you start pushing enough size, then yeah, maybe some of your size not necessarily getting filled on late gates. There's a 76 print. Oh my God! So we did pull back to 75 halves there on Palantir. 75 halves gives us a bounce all the way back up to 76, and so that's a 50-point run as the Nasdaq pushes up into 21 threes. Oh boy, are we going to catch a little bit of a bid going into the close with only about, what is that, 37? Did I do the quick maths right? Yeah, 37 minutes left there on the day. And
on the year.
On the year, yeah, you're right.
On the year of trading.
So those 6 month and on those 12-month charts coming into a close.
Ooh, you're going to get some big candles.
Oh, yeah.
That's one thing. Maybe we'll even do some of that in the aftermarket shows.
Yeah.
You got to look at
the higher time frames.
Like, look at the higher time frames. It's a good time, obviously, at the end of every month to do that. But certainly today, it can be well worth it. Just a couple of things. Like Nvidia, while I was looking at BDMD, and of course Rigetti, which I'm now into BDMD. Nvidia very close to VWAP, back above the 135 level, starting to press a little bit higher. You got Tesla, which is trying to press. It's at 408, trying to go back into VWAP itself. Another one, which is Apple, held on at 250 very well and trying to get into VWAP here at 251. So you're getting a lot of press back up in the market, and it's looking pretty good. Eventually was able to get a fill in the teens on BDMD. I almost hit enter with it spelled incorrectly. So like I said, I wasn't going to chase it. The idea being, when it breaks that trend line, even 17's a bit of a chase to be giving it back up here. That's like 50 cents worth of risk to try to take it back up, which is reasonable when you consider VWAP is at $6, which is $2 lower. So if it goes the full move, that's 4-1. But I think a half move is even reasonable here. So I want to make sure I have my stop in. It's not going to give me the feels to want to add to this. It is 325. I've seen too many of these small cappers, or they try to break the high of the day. This one did the best job of it. It broke the high of the day and made another high. But once it did the reversion, it's a reverse trade of Rigetti there. Bigfoot is asking what's my price target on Intel. I don't have a price target on Intel. Oops, I just misplaced my stop. Let me back in. Thought I put 870.
We're reverting, Neil. We are reverting.
We're always something is always reverting, Oldie. Oh,
that's the beautiful
this stock
thing.
has no liquidity.
Isn't that the most beautiful thing, Neil?
There's a bull market somewhere.
I mean, it doesn't. I don't care if it's bull or bear, as long as we have some sort of range and movement.
There we go.
As long as prices are moving.
Well, they're always.
There's always opportunity.
I shouldn't say that. They're not always moving.
I mean,
sometimes they are absolutely.
Yeah, sometimes they're dead. Sometimes they don't move.
That's
those. I don't know. I don't really. Maybe someone has a strategy that works for that. Oh boy, so we're kind of continuing back up into VWAP. This is what I was looking for there, but again, unclean on the front side of the move, therefore unclean on the actual side, right side of the V here on Palantir as it continues to push back up above 76s. So again, I down here, I I'm pretty sure I doubled up down here when I saw a little bit of a hold of that 75, but I could have definitely held on to these shares as well. I got to do again a little bit better with that. Wow, there's a 500 lot bid on top of 76s. That's interesting. Let's see if Buddy gets filled there. You see that 505, 500 sitting at 09s. Is he stepping up? This is what I mean. Maybe we're going to get a bit of a chaser on them. Oh, no, he gets knocked out right there. Buddy got knocked out right there at 09s, right? Yeah, 09s. Everything filled 09s on a lit gate NASDAQ book. So interesting. So, yeah, 76 is actually printed. Where is the next trade is what I'm asking. I'm still looking at U.S. Steel as it continues to hold its trend as of right now, right here. If I can pull that in effectively. Here we go. That AVGO alert, man. It seems like AVGO has been kind of consolidating pretty much all day. But yeah, no real reason to kind of get in here just yet. Maybe a 35 back through. I'm not really looking at a higher time frame on this, so let's go take a look at that here. Get rid of some of these indicators here, VWAP. So yeah, it comes right into this. This high is, this low is kind of standing out right off the bat. What is that low? That low is 35.07. What is current day high? Day high is 35.30. So just about a little bit past that, about 13 pennies past, or 23 pennies past that prior low there, it would seem on X. But yeah, still trending very well to the upside. So this is what I like to do. You guys already know. Shout out to Mr. Brian Shannon. I've been using a lot more anchored VWAP as well for my trading and just as a guide in terms of ideas and price action. And it's been working quite well. And what I've realized is like the nuances of where and when you might apply that anchored can make a little bit of
makes all the difference.
A little bit of a difference, just like any indicator, right? Like you said, like we can draw trend lines on the chart, but if your trend lines, again, if you have back tested some types of trend lines, they tend to work a little bit better, in my opinion, versus others. You can't just arbitrarily draw a trend line from a high to a low and expect it to hold. That makes absolutely no sense. At the end of the day, I think what I've started doing is like, okay, well, if I see an event happen. If I see an event happen, again, for any indicator, basing an indicator off of said event makes a little bit more sense to me because I'm looking for the offside.
Exactly.
So when participants get into a ticker or something significant happens to a ticker, I'm taking the trend off of that. I'm taking the anchored off of that just to see what participants... that started the move, participants that may have started or been a part of starting that move, when do they get offside, or are they still in control? Are they still with it? So it's like that's a little bit.
I got an example of one
perspective that I've gained. Yes, what's up?
And you don't even, sometimes the trend line can just be like the moving averages will do a job for you as well. Because someone just mentioned in the chat that Nike was strong, and yes, Nike's up 1.5%. But on that topic, this is maybe one of the better examples of where a trend line can work and sort of where the trend matters. Because you could say, well, this is the top of December of last year on Nike, and yeah, 124, clearly a big time top. But if you look at it, if you look at Nike, so this was clearly, it had already broken a downward trend and was screaming higher. I think a very clear retest of some of those 2022 lows, a lot of stocks had them, and then you get this top. And it looked like it was breaking out. Then all you know what broke loose on Nike. There was this gap down, this gap right in the 50, and then support, or sort of the resistance that turned right after that. If you draw the trend from that high to the lower high, look how well it's held. And it's held for a long time. And every single time, and look what happens on earnings. Pop in, fail. On earnings, pop, fail. Pop, fail the trend line. Just recently again, pop, fail the trend line. So what do you look for? I know a lot of people like to catch bottoms in stocks because they figure, well, if I get it long here, it can go back to the prior high. It could get to 124. You can see exactly what your target's going to be on something like this. But until it breaks that trend, this is an easy short every single time it wicks the top. So let it close above the trend line. Allow it to break and hold above the trend, and then you've got it going with you instead of working against you. Speaking of the trend line giveth, the trend line taketh away.
Break it.
So if you have an execution strategy, and it was the same with Rigetti, only Rigetti broke trend and headed right, it was the other direction because it was a long, but broke trend and headed right up. In this particular case, break trend, short here, stop there. Binary. This is one of those setups. I like it because I know where my edge is going to be. I know why I'm getting into it, where I'm getting in, where I'm getting out if it's wrong. I know where my take profits are going to be in a general sense. And then VWAP, of course. I know where I want to take profit. All of it's already set up because we've done it a few times. Tesla was not going higher. Tesla was going higher, now it's back in. So now that I'm out of BDMD, maybe you've got something else that's going to run. It's 330. Nvidia just got to VWAP. I don't feel overly bullish about any of these, especially going into the end of the day, but you could make the argument that profit taking today is going to mean some buying into the close. Early look on the imbalances, oddly enough, US Steel's there for 900,000. Why not? TAL, it's a small name. Yeah, it's a 900,000 buy. It's the only one. This could be something. US Steel is just so strong.
It is pretty strong. It's coming into an anchored, speaking of anchoreds, from...
Where is the anchored?
I don't know. Let's check where this anchored is from. I got to pull it up on here, and we can check.
Oh, that could be an easy...
Together here. So first of all, I want to see if it's actually been acting like an over-under. So let's go to a higher time frame, go straight to the 3-hour right here. Oh boy, look at that. That flush that came in. So was this the deal kind of getting rocked? I think it might have been. It kind of washed it a little bit. Has it been respecting? Not really, not always, but it did kind of attempt to hold there before it kind of cracked. Once again, when on the reclaim, it attempts to hold, but yeah, it kind of showing the core of price action. Again, it is a moving average, right? At the same time, you kind of have to keep that into consideration. But yeah, coming back up into some of these prior levels here would mean trading up at 3670s. This anchored sitting currently at 3693 here. So pretty much sideways action for the most part. Attempts to push a little bit further. Look at that volume. That was a discount. What's that low? 2688. We're trading at 3770s right now. So
someone just asked a good question.
Yes.
You said it, and I've said it a million times, and I say it every single day, at least 5 times a day. Over under.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between. I'm going to use U.S. Steel because it's a better example. There's a difference between I can draw a line on a chart, and I could draw a line. Let's just do it like here. I'll pick a random place on the chart and draw a line, and look, it trades over it, it trades under it. That's not what we're getting at here. It's a specific price where you actually have trading to and from, away from a particular price in either direction. So I would show, on this chart, the only place where I would look at an over-under is about $35. Why? Because when it approaches 35, it bounces away from 35. So you've got support. When it gets to 35 and breaks it, it runs away to the downside. It then regains it, it runs away to the upside, runs away to the upside, runs away to the upside. When it loses it, runs away to the downside. So to me, an over-under level, and this is just to my 2 cents, when I'm talking about a level like that, which oddly enough, this is where it happens to be turning, it just means a price area where there doesn't tend to be a lot of security at that price. It's active at that price, but it's active running away from that price, meaning you want to trade it when it bounces or flushes through that price level. When it does a consolidation and breaks under here, you want that short, like it did here. Or when it consolidates over, you want that long. When it bounces, you want the longs after that. So to me, that's what an over-under means. And I like those. It's an idea of support and resistance, but it gives you some good trends off of support and resistance. So if you ever hear us say an over-under price level, it's not just a random price. It's something where it's done it historically, or I'm looking for it to do that today. As we mentioned, US Steel looking strong after some concessions, potential concessions to the Biden administration and trying to get this deal done. But still, a ways away from the deal price. I can only imagine what the call volume has done because there's so much premium to the close of this deal. It's still 50-something% from the close price.
Yeah, I was just watching this tape on Palantir. There's a bit of a chaser that stepped in on top of 76s with an edge A, not really getting filled, and it rips up 20 pennies on that right there, giving us more of that reversion back into that VWAP right now. Let's take a quick look at a couple other tickers as well. Oh boy, okay, so
Tesla coming.
Yeah, it seems like MSTR is continuing to sell off into the close there. But for that, we'll be back from Madeira. What's up?
This part of the show is brought to you by
That
eSignal.
Palantir was so
Trade
good.
smarter, not harder. Upgrade to an elite trading experience that can help you analyze, strategize, and capitalize. You can foresee profitable opportunities by using the platform that meets your needs. Infinite data can lead to instant trading. Know where the market's moving before others with lightning fast data and charts that change the game. Customize and analyze the markets faster your way. Better backtesting and scanning can help you predict the future by understanding the past. And you'll have access to reliable real-time data. That's up to the second market info from hundreds of global markets. Everything you need, all in one place. Don't miss a beat. Execute your best trades now with eSignal. Are you ready to elevate your trading? Scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Back to you.
So a couple of things here. MSTR is starting to lose a bid here, and Bitcoin's back underneath 94,000. There was a bounce off of these levels earlier, so about 93.5 is where the higher low set up. But as that's going on, MSTR just continues to make fresh lows, or test fresh lows. 286 is the actual bottom, 286 change. Looks like you're going to get another flood zone in here. I just saw in the chat, it's like bad thing. Sailor is going to single-handedly destroy the entire crypto market, says Shane W. I'll say this. If the let's call it the nuclear option, let's say that something, and it would be extreme, let's say something would actually happen to cause MSTR to liquidate Bitcoin. All I'm saying is this, like, I'm more of like a 5% of the portfolio guy. I would be hand over fist buying and hodling any kind of ridiculous flash if they had to liquidate. And you'd know it because it would be sustained and it would be nasty and it would be more than 60 to 70%, which I don't think we were talking about Michael Noss, that maybe we're past the time where it always goes back 60 to 80% from fresh highs, and maybe we're in the zone where it goes back 30%, and that's more reasonable. But yeah, it's not looking good for them. Another fresh low about to get taken in here. What else do we have going on here? Obviously, there's a lot running. U.S. Steel starting to give it up a little bit. Yeah, that 35 turned out to be a bit of a level, Obi. Or just randomly looked at that chart and was like, hey, here's an over-under. Yep. It always seems to run away from the $35 level. And lo and behold, what happened? It failed a break of 35 and is now starting to revert the trend back in. So if you were, like, why wasn't I thinking short on this stock is the real question I have to ask myself, because there's the trend from the recent buying, the secondary push on the buying. There's the fail of 35. There's your close under. There would be your entry. You would get like 34. Call it like 34.80. It never regains 35 even. And now that was a better short than BDMD. It is what it is. I picked the wrong stock to go short the reversion on. We picked BDMD, which is actually still above our price. So good reason to have gotten out there. But let's go up to the desk. We've got Adara again.
Let's take our last sector watch here of 2024 as we head into the last 20 minutes of the session and the year. So this board here, we looked at this earlier today too. This is the year-to-date performance of all of these stocks. This is year-to-date. In the morning, we took a look at the best performing stock in each of the best performing sectors. So we're going to flip it up here for the afternoon. We're going to take a look at the worst performing stocks in the S&P 500 in each of the worst performing sectors. Only one sector was actually red on the year. It's materials, down about 2% here. And that is the worst sector of the year. The worst stock in this sector is CE, that's Celanese Corporation, down 55% year to date. This is the daily chart. Not a great look here for CE, which took a really big hit here on the day of the election. This is November 5th. Then we've got mRNA. Yes, the health sector was the second worst performing sector, up on the year, but only marginally by about 0.63%. Actually a good day today for mRNA, but not a great year. As Neil mentioned here, they're actually been removed from the NASDAQ 100, and they're down 58.5% on the year. Last but not least, ARE, this is Alexandria Realty, and they're the worst performing stock on the third weakest sector of the year. That is real estate, up just 0.7% on the year. Alexandria, though, down 23.5% year to date. This is pretty nasty chart here, just downtrend from the start of the year. So this is the worst performing stocks in the worst performing sectors. Let's see how those sectors fare next year, and make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content every single day. Back to you.
Thank you very much.
I was just talking to Fabian about Adobe, because I mean, I don't know if anyone's seen this weekly chart on Adobe. By the way, that short would have been fantastic on US Steel. Picked the wrong one there. But Adobe, the weekly chart. This is a weekly on Adobe, and it's double bottom 434-ish here. Double bottom on Adobe. If it loses that bid, I mean, you could start seeing some price levels that are juicy for a lot of reasons, but one of them, the forward P on Adobe is now 19. Like, show me a name that is in the AI realm, right? Stands to benefit, obviously, from AI, that has, obviously, a recurring revenue business and subscription business, and trades it, if they meet earnings next quarter, 19 times. A forward P, 19. Like, you've got to be kidding me. And if it breaks this bottom, you could be, like, gobbling this one up on the way down in the 300s. I bet you there's going to be some institutions that are going to be all over buying that. So it's 342. We got 18 minutes until we get the close. Final close of 2024. Darn it, US Steel. So, fail. And we were talking earlier about it's one thing to have a trading strategy or an execution strategy, but you saw me pick US Steel instead of, sorry, you saw me take BDMD instead of US Steel. BDMD, we started getting out, and then it stopped out. US Steel giving you pretty much the exact reversion you would want back into VWAP.
Yeah.
Is it still falling, MSTR?
Yeah, I'm like staring it down. The imbalance is about to come out in a few minutes.
Yeah, we got a few minutes to go.
It broke that day low, pulling back in. Currently trading at 280, below 286 is the bid right now. But yeah, the lowest print currently 64s, 85 64s. Currently 61 on the bid currently as well. So yeah.
I'd be concerned if this doesn't.
A little bit lower. Yeah, if it comes out like a buy imbalance or
well,
something.
yesterday
Was pretty crazy.
Yesterday, MSTR was over 2 million on the imbalance.
Yeah, 2 million in itself.
So you have to keep in mind when you look at the move that this put in. Let me zoom it out so you can see the close yesterday. When you look at this move here, so yeah, it was already falling, but when you look at this move on MSTR from that 310 and then bleeding into the aftermarket, that was on a 2 million sell imbalance, stuck around for about 600 to 700,000. So with this crater that you're seeing, if it comes out of buy imbalance, there's probably some of that selling could be anticipatory that there's another sell imbalance coming in. If it ends up a buy imbalance, you could see it shoot up. And even if it's just not a sell imbalance, it might catch a little bit of a relief rally. Right now, the early look has a heck of a lot of nothing. Hey, we were just talking about CVS, and it's a 1.6 million buy imbalance. US Steel, still 1 million early look buy imbalance. So if it says BRKR, that means it's an early look on the imbalance. This probably halted, and that's why I see it 344. Is it? No, it's not. I don't know why that's up there. But anyways, BRK are the ones that we care about here. So it is just now CVS. US Steel looks pretty interesting for 1 million. SMR with an early look buy imbalance of 500,000. That's pretty big for SMR. New Scale's only done 5 million. That's about 10, just over 10% of the day's volume on SMR. So I'm going to throw that one up as well. So I'm going to have US Steel, MSTR, and SMR are the stocks I want to have up going into these imbalances. Yeah, you just got to be able to see what's going on there. Bigfoot says, how is Microsoft underperformed the market? You want an explanation as to why it underperforms? Some people say they're not monetizing AI as well as they could. The stock's still been doing fine in a general sense, but yeah, a little bit of trouble relative to the other Mag 7 names for sure, and most of it's because people have said that they have not monetized AI well enough, despite all the spending that they're doing. And they're starting to get some hits from their investment. The losses from OpenAI starting to hit their PE as well. So I guess that's the best way to look at it year to date relative to the other names there, Bigfoot. But let analysts come up with the reasons why something happens. Price doesn't lie.
Yeah.
You know, my physiotherapist, he loves MSTR, but price doesn't lie. Bitcoin goes up and bounces, and MSTR keeps going lower. So 4 minutes till the imbalances. We'll see what happens with MSTR. If there is a big sell imbalance, I probably would look for a continuation short somewhere, Obi. I'd assume you do the same. But I don't want to be caught in it short now, and then if it comes out as a buy, you could get absolutely ripped.
Have those stops in. I'll have those stops in for sure. Yeah, catching a little bit of a bid. We dropped down. Actually, the low, funny enough, is 285.01 clean. On MSTR, bidding right back up. You got 286 halves on the ask right there, about a 50, anywhere between a 50 to 30 penny spread every now and then. Just kind of watching it going into the close, waiting 4 more minutes, just under 4 more minutes for these imbalances to come out. Funny enough, X, United States, steel. If you had put an anchored on the event, this is what I'm talking about. So you put the indicator on where the participants kind of came in right here with that volume. And look, whenever we pull back, buyers are in charge, we get the first strong aggressive selling, and guess what? That's the average weighted price. It's the anchored average weighted, average volume weighted price on X. And look at where it bounces off of. 83.80s is the anchored right there. We went to 77, so obviously it's not going to be perfect to the price. Oh wow, look, coming right back up to 290. Neil, so yeah, some buying coming into the close here on MSTR, as well as the market. We're getting a little bit of a bottom wick here on this 15-minute candle to start us off into the last 15 minutes of the day, with only about, I guess, 2.5 minutes left for those imbalances to come out. So I've got to be patient. Yeah, we'll let you know if anything crazy comes out here on the NASDAQ or the NYSE. Hopefully a little nice. No, that was horrible. I'll stop. The end of the week. Hopefully, the end of the year.
Hopefully the close is nice to everybody. Hopefully, hopefully tonight you have some fun with the aftermarket show. We'll try to have some fun with it. Obviously, there's not going to be nobody's going to be reporting any earnings aftermarket. Everybody. So myself and Adair, we want to go over how some stocks have done over the year. Just looking at maybe there's a news story there. Nope, not really. Kind of a nothing burger. Yeah, we're going to go over how stocks have done over the year, maybe answer some questions you guys might have. We can keep it light. We can talk all stocks. We can talk absolutely nothing. Compelled Cat, Neil, can you all caps not necessarily, I'll usually see it. If you tag me in the chat, it's easier for me to catch your message. You just go say like that, like at Neil, and then it's easy, so area pages. And thank you for the advice on the hyperbaric for recovery. I tore my Achilles for
time chamber.
Yeah, for everyone that doesn't know, I tore my Achilles. I'm like 5 months and change post surgery. That's why I keep talking about it. But there was a question here. Can you repeat what you said you were watching again, or put it into the chat? So at the close for the imbalances in 1 minute, MSTR because it had a 2 million imbalance yesterday. I'm looking at U.S. Steel because of that recent news this afternoon, and it's got an early look 900,000 buy imbalance, and then SMR. It has an early look 500,000 share imbalance, but it's only done 5 million shares. So those are the 3 names that I'm going to look at with 30 seconds to go. And we just got a super chat for Faraday. I'll very quickly thank you, Rohit, for the super chat on Faraday Future. There's not much to say for this except what goes up must come down. Faraday is a repeat offender, and when you see a pattern like this of reverse split, last a day or two, flush, bounce, last a day or two, flush to new lows, then reverse split again, rinse and repeat. Habitual line stepper, this stock, and you usually want to make sure you get your gains on that first day. You don't want to be the person buying a top on stocks like Mullen and Faraday because you get rinsed. Plug Power, sell and balance 3 million. You got Lucid, sell and balance of 2.3 million. Rigetti, 1.6 million buy on Rigetti, sell on Rivian 1.2, Apple 1.1 million to the sell side. I don't see MSTR, I don't see SMR, I do not see US Steel. Rigetti is the one that would stand out there. 1.5 million buy on Rigetti? I mean, the low's 15 even. If you can maybe get something off of this 15 level, that would make sense. It's done 128 million in volume. It's not like it's hurting for volume, but that's starting to shoot to the upside on Rigetti. Plug Power, that was a sell imbalance, and Lucid was also a sell. But Rigetti stands out for that 1.4 million. Then Apple as well. What did MSTR do? Because
Insta-slam down to 85s.
That's all it takes.
So I didn't really see it.
I don't see it there either.
Yeah, it's not. It's definitely not any of the top ones there. It's okay. So Wayne, thank you, Wayne, for that. Yeah, it's not a lot. But again, we still got a little bit of action there. It bid up all the way almost to 290s and then slams right back into the lows there, trading just around that 286 mark currently there. So not as aggressive of a sell coming into the close today as we had yesterday. So oh boy, that was definitely a bit of a move there yesterday. But getting some similar action there, getting some selling going into the close, a little bit of a pop, shake and bake action up into 280, 290s, back down to 285s. Current day low on this ticker is 85.01. Don't forget. So we're trading 86 is just about a point away from that. Watching this U.S. steel as well. It seems like XOM. Hello, XOM. So XOM might be catching a little bit of a bid here going into the close.
Oil wasn't bad.
Yeah, oil was a little bit in play.
Oxy 2 points today. XOM was a strong one today. CVX doing pretty decent. Like there was some strength in the market. It wasn't just small cappers, although mostly it was. So just to recap for everybody, it's really just Apple on the big cap, 1.1 million to the sell side. The overall market was 255 million to sell, with the NASDAQ being 560 million, Mag 7 465 million to the sell side. So relatively small numbers there, unfortunately. Yeah, you're not really going to get too excited about that. Plug Power is a really cheap stock, $2. Lucid's a $3 stock, so those aren't really significant numbers. Rigetti was probably your shot. If you could beat the algos or maybe just catch that somewhere in the 30s to the long side, not that I want to chase it. The three stocks I was looking at all ended up being nothing burgers, so U.S. Steel didn't really do anything there at 350, and you already talked about MSTR there, Obi.
Yep.
And then the other one was going to be SMR, which had a slight buy imbalance, which came out nothing. So it was an early look 500,000. It came out less than that. I didn't even see the number, but it was less than that. So it did nothing as well. So none of those set up for a trade. Razor AJ, what usually happens on the first day of the new year? Usually the market opens up just fine. And I want to see if I can get this right. I think it's on the last 20 years, the average return on the first day of the year is like 0.38%, which is actually pretty good when you think about it. I think of the up days, close to 50% of them are 1% or more. It tends to be a relatively bullish day in a general sense. So usually the first day of the trading year is bullish. But then, as Michael Noss was pointing out to us, 75% of the time, if you pick any day and then go out a year, it's a good time to buy because the market's up from any day a year later, 75%. The thing to look at for real change in probability was the first 5 days of the year. If those are red, and then January as a whole is also red, suddenly you start looking at some really negative possibilities, relatively speaking, for the market. But that first day of the year is typically an up day. I forget the exact percentage, but I do remember it's like in the last 20 years, it's 0.38% is the average up, which is pretty good, relatively speaking.
Nice, yeah. I'm not really seeing anything else. Just watching this MSTR into the close. Palantir kind of came right back into 75 halves as some of this prior consolidation level there off of the imbalances. So nothing too crazy going on there. But yeah, we hit a high of 76.30. So didn't quite get to VWAP there. Got to some prior highs and pulls right back in. So that downtrend maintaining on Palantir here. Here comes the potentially the low day there. We were printing 285s and some change real quick just now. Let's see if we can break that low day at 285s here on MSTR going into the close. There's the pairing. What happens off the pairing? Oh boy, we get an aggressive bid. Can we, okay, 289's on the ask.
Everything paired off.
Yeah, a lot of things paired off there going into the close. What's a CRBD?
So Rivian's paired off. Nvidia was there, paired off. Apple has paired off. Pretty much everything that was big. I mean, Lucid paired off. It's still 900,000 to the sell side. Rivian being a big one as well.
Wow,
You'll now see that gun. But it's still falling. Actually, Rivian's still falling. And the market is falling as well. You're not ending off. You know what? It was a fantastic year. And the last 2 years have been essentially records for the last over a decade. But the ES is going to close near the low of the day. The NASDAQ is pressing right back into the bottoms. Yeah, it hasn't been a really good one. Nvidia, let me just check Nvidia at the close here after we look at the futures. Nvidia right back into those lows at 134. Tesla getting 402. Tesla just hit. Wow, so Tesla just hit 402, another threshold, 3% down on Tesla. Yeah, it's starting to look nasty. A couple of things that we didn't even talk about here today. Meta This just caught a huge flush at the end of the day. It wasn't doing anything for most of the day. And then Meta just dropped on a 15-minute candle, $5 on Meta. So that 1%, pretty much all in the last little bit here. I didn't even see it on the locator, but it was chilling at VWAP, going sideways, and another flush. So it's looking pretty nasty. That Tesla chart, here it is. I can just pull that one up on the black chart. That's the flush going into the close. It just caught a bid off 402 again, or 403 again here on Tesla. But the bleed is real. Profit takers at the end of the year. No guarantee we see any bounces come Thursday, but sometimes that's what happens is we catch an early rally. If it doesn't sustain, that's when we get into trouble. If we only bounce for a couple of days and then go red again, that's when the market usually gets in a little bit of trouble. I see Paco mentioning Amazon. There's a really decent chance if it's a tech stock, right now it's testing its lows, and if it's not, then file that one away for some relative strength. Anything in the tech space that is not testing a low right now, you might want to file away for something you want to look for some longs when we come back in the new year in a couple of days. But I got to mosey on up to the desk to get prepared for the aftermarket show. We'll take questions. We'll have a little bit of fun. I want to obviously thank you, Obi, for filling in for Sean. Probably not going to take anything, but if you do into the close, best of luck. I'll see you in a couple of minutes for the market recap, last one of the year.
Oh boy, yeah. Stick around for that. Don't go anywhere. And what a beautiful year we have had here. So thank you all once again for joining us for the trading days. Many trading days. What's it about 252 trading days in the year, something like that?
I should know the answer, but I don't.
I'm pretty sure it's 252, something like that. Trading days in the year. And okay, so Bright Awakening with a super chat. Okay, so let's read this out here. So thank you, Trader TV team. You are all truly amazing. Happy New Year 2025. Everyone, I guess. May you all always be kind and happy always. Thank you very much, Bright Awakening. Very bright message there. So thank you as well. And we hope everyone has a great new year. And we talked about kind of reflecting on the year and making some goals for the next year, trying to improve, trying to get a little bit better every day, every month, and every year, hopefully, as well. And as trading is definitely not easy, you definitely have to be looking for areas to improve in, setting goals, and actually looking back at where you came from, right? So it's like, all right, that's another goal of mine for this year as well. Kind of getting into the mentality of like not necessarily comparing. Oh, there's 290 as well. Not necessarily comparing myself to who I ideally want to be as much, but taking maybe a little bit more closer look at how far I've come and the progress I've made, and kind of putting an emphasis on the things I do really well and focusing on those, focusing on a little bit more of that to kind of push my trading journey a little bit further there. So yeah, hopefully you guys have a great New Year's. I don't know what your guys' plans are, but yeah, stay safe, like we said, and be responsible. Don't get too crazy, guys. The market's still open on Thursdays. You want to be in a full functional mindset for that. The beginning of the year, don't forget. So with Adair at the bell, 10 seconds. Did I get that one right? Almost. Let's see. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thank you, Adair. There's Fabian in the side. There you go. Hey, what's up, man? So yeah, happy New Year. Thank you, Bears versus Bulls there in the chat. Giving everyone a happy New Year as well. So we'll see you guys in a couple of days. And I don't know if they're ready for us just yet at the big desk there, but don't go anywhere. Market recap, the last one of the year, guys. So stick around with Neil and Adara for the market recap. I'll see you guys around. Take it easy. Have a good one.
Thank you very much, Obi. It is the final market recap show of 2024. I actually can't believe it, Adara. It's a truth that obviously the more time you spend on the earth, your perception of time changes and time flies. It's simple math. I'm a bit of a nerd, right? So, if you're 4 years old, a year past, that's a quarter of your life. It takes forever. When you're 40, that's like, 2.5%. It's nothing. and it flies by. So you got to appreciate each and every single moment. So we'll have a little bit of fun. There's a lot to recap, not just for today, because today was pretty wild, but also for the entire year here at Dara. It would be easy to say I don't know where to start, but that would be a lie.
Yeah.
Because I think when we look at, okay, well, what was crazy, like at the end of the day yesterday, the focus was on MSTR. Because that flushed and ended up down 10%, continued to flush into the aftermarket. Despite the fact Bitcoin caught a bit of a bid, MSTR continued to flush again today. It's now down 5%. You've got a lot of people saying Michael Saylor is gonna ruin. I saw ruin crypto.
Yeah.
I've certainly seen that it could get really nasty if Bitcoin were to lose the bid here because MSTR is already starting to come into the downside. But here, you're down another 4 points, which it actually, Adara it seemed worse than 4% today. That's the best way to think about it.
Yeah.
And I think it's because like sometimes the steadiness of the downward trend, and because it's an expensive stock, like it dropped a lot, you have to remember that it gapped up. Yeah. So all things being in context here, I'll put up a 5-minute. It's only down 4%, but most of that is because it flushed $25 at the close yesterday.
Yeah.
So all it did is come right back up to the same level. I'm leading to something which most of you should know. It came right back up to the same level that we saw this sell-off. Now every trader has a playbook.
Yeah.
And in that playbook, you should have trades that you consider A+ or B, and maybe you'll take something that's like a B- or whatever. But a stock trending to the downside that has a leading indicator that broke out and it couldn't break out, that showed you the same level that rejected, that showed you a wide range of opportunity inside of that range, that would classify as an A+ setup. Yeah. But I can tell you the only person that was short MSTR on the show today was Adara. And I don't want to give away the price or the trade, but we're going to open off reviewing your trade at MSTR. I was hoping we could do it in the afternoon show.
I'm sorry about
but
that.
We'll do it right now because it was a banger.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I want to shout out Wayne as well, who was not on the show, but in the background, he was also short this. So Shout out to Wayne. Basically, MSTR. So I had kind of an over-under 320 idea for this because 320 was the level we rejected yesterday. And with us gapping up on the day,
Happy New Year,
Happy New Year, Fabian. I really like this 318 top. We had a rounded bottom. I was like, if we break 318, I like the long. But then we break down in the morning, and I see this beautiful little pre-market support at 314.50. So I'm like, you know what? This is kind of ambitious, but I shorted 314.50, and I did so. I basically risked just under half my daily risk because I was like, this is not something I do often, but I was like, this type of trade is so good. That is the trade. This is the amount of risk this deserves. So I basically risked into that 316.50 area here, so risking about 2 points, which I think is fair because the downside here is pretty significant. The other area I would have considered an entry would have been the breakdown at 312, which is the pre-market low, but I liked the 314.50 better, so I got in there. And then we just kind of cracked a little bit. I'm going to show the 15-minute chart because that's how I was using my outs. First out here at, okay, so it's kind of confusing, the current overlapping a bit. But the first out was around that 310 was actually my first out just because I liked that prior support. I was like, let's get some out there. Then we had another out here, and I was really proud of this one around that 307 level because there was some more chop and churn there on the 15. I had an out at 303 or just above 304, so it never got filled. Unfortunately, we bounced. It was cool.
Ooh.
The market does what it does, right?
Yeah.
It's all good. Ended up getting stopped out at just above 310s. The reason I liked that stop is because that level for me was pretty huge, and that was also a little bit of previous support resistance. The other level I would have used was 312. And 312, to be clear, I still would have gotten stopped out regardless. The only way I would have not gotten stopped out on this was if I had used my entry point as my stop. And that's something I have to consider going forward. I honestly have not taken very many opening trades. This is literally the first candle of the day.
Can you zoom in?
I will try.
To zoom right in because you do something which I'm pretty sure I see there, and I don't know what time that second purple candle
I'll talk
entry is. But one thing that a lot of traders don't do, which is, hey, the first move happens and it makes a bounce and it reverts back in, and then it's still a continuation in whatever direction. It could be a long if it's going up, obviously a short if it's going down, but they won't get into the new short because it's at a worse price than where they covered their old short. So you get anchored to that amazing initial position, and then you're unwilling to compromise. So like, oh, but this is what I had. How can I possibly short? And you can go over the price. Maybe that was 290 or whatever it is, 300, whatever it is. How can I short that when I was short 314? Sometimes you got to buy high, sell higher, short low, and sell even lower. So I think actually the more impressive part of the trade was being willing to get out and then enter at a much worse price to capture more of the move. You've got to be able to do it. You've got a stock on the hooks like that, you got to be able to get in. So I think it was a good one.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I want to talk about this one as well because this is actually a playbook for me too. I like low of day breakdowns. I know that's kind of an odd, but I would say like that's actually one of my playbook trades. And I want to kind of segue to also answer this question from Ari Pages, basically asking about my preference for more expensive stocks. Can I briefly explain it? Yeah, so I think I can't really explain it. All I know is what works for me. And I made a post about this on my X as well, Trader TV Adara. I haven't done the math yet, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be flat or red in December, and that's because I tried to stray a little bit into these cheaper stocks. Like when I find I'm at my best when I'm just focusing on these stocks, and I find that's because I'm more comfortable with their movements. So with that in mind, one of my favorite playbooks on these spready stocks is low of day breaks. And one thing I like to is like when you're at that previous low. So our previous low of day here in MSTR was, and I know because I was involved in the stock, that 304.30s area. So once we broke below 304.30s, I use that as my risk. No, I used the area right above that here on the 5 as my risk, so just shy of 304s, because I knew once we broke that 304.30s, there was potential here for us to continue to go lower. So got short there, half the size of my initial position, got short 302s. It actually worked pretty well right away, and what I realized was I was like, where am I wrong? Well, we keep having, we're basically continuing to make these lower lows in the 5 minutes. So the second I have a 5-minute bar that is basically breaching the high of the prior 5-minute bar, I don't want to be involved anymore. So with that rule, I was comfortable holding this for a while. So I basically just sat in this and I held it. So best, again, 302, my best exit here was around 295 halves. It actually got to just below 294s, but I didn't want to sell there because that wasn't part of my plan. So I was really proud of what I did here with the MSTR. Just like this was my plan. Like I know I'm wrong if this happens.
Exactly.
So until I'm wrong, just chill. Just stay happy with what I did here. And then basically this first out was 300. Second out was the prior bar low there, or sorry, prior low of day around that 298s. And then again, that 295 area was where I got stopped over the last pieces. But yeah, happy with the trade, rant over. But yeah, I'm happy, always happy to be here and excited to trade more spready stocks. This brought me back to my roots today.
And the short might not be over on MSTR, so that's probably worth one watching. It's a short till it's not. The trend has been down precipitously on that stock, especially relative to Bitcoin. So we promised, because it's the last day of the year, there's not going to be earnings to go after, there's not a heck of a lot going on in the aftermarket on a day like today. We want to get to some questions if you have any. First things first, if you would like to ask a question in the chat, that's the only place we're going to see it. So please hit the like, hit the subscribe, and then you can post in our chat. So if you're still curious and have anything you want, like Zorbon, Exorbon, whichever the name is. Do you have any traders that trade futures? If not, is there a reason why? And thank you. So on the prop floor, traders trading exclusively futures, there have been a few. However, if I look at in 20 years and all the traders I've seen come through the prop floor, the percentage of traders that trade exclusively the futures is infinitesimally small. Most of that has to do with what is the edge that a day trading prop firm like us has. And most of that edge is you're able to trade very actively in super high liquid equities with an extra amount of leverage. Meaning, if you're trading at home in a retail account, there's almost no chance that you're going to get a couple of $1 million worth of buying power to go trade NEO or Apple. But you are more easily able to get leverage to trade in the futures. So there's more of an edge to draw in equity traders to a floor like this. Doesn't mean you don't get people that trade the futures. Now, what ends up happening is anybody that trains on equities will end up gravitating towards, well, if I trade the futures, I'm just going to trade the Qs because it trades like a stock. It's priced like a stock. It follows the market. It's like trading a $500 stock, trading in the Qs or trading in the TQs, which will be a lower price. It's the same. It's just alike. And so some people will shy away from trading the futures because it's a tick increments are going to be different. They'll just trade the equities because that's where their edge lies at real trading. If Not that there aren't many. Arun, who used to be on this show, traded for years exclusively on the futures. He started on our trading floor, myself and Sean's, and I think around, I want to say it was 2006 or 7, but you're around long enough, and I forget the starting years of some traders, and he just recently moved to trading his own account, and he ended up, and he traded for a very long time, and I think there are very few people, and shout out to Arun, because I can't always say this about traders, there are very few traders that will step away from a prop floor and their last month they actually get a payout. It's usually not the way it goes for some stuff. So shout out to him for having ended on that. There's a couple that have done that recently. We had our floor manager, Greg, do the same thing, just moving on to something different. But we said we'd get to some questions in here, so we're definitely happy to do that. I'm just going to scroll back down. Oh, I just saw something about TD Bank and I missed it. I'll see if I can find that again, but there was a question about KULR.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
So, and it's Mile High Momo. Can you take a look at KULR? Now, the reason I want to look at Curl Technology is I saw this a few times in the show today, and for whatever reason, it's like I noticed another question or maybe a trade happened, and I never really got to have a look at it. So you've got a 7% short float, which is part of the reason why it gets a little bit interesting. Let me do this so I can get the daily chart up first. I like to look inside out. You have seen, and I know this is usually not what people want to hear, but you've seen a lot of these runs, whether it's hollow, whether it's, whether you're looking at Rigetti, and some of these have been really, really strong the last couple of days, and then you're now seeing the back end of it. And you've got to keep in mind, a lot of times when we get questions about these, when it's day 2 or day 3 of a pullback like this, it'll always be like, oh, what do I do with it? Or maybe hopefully they're long early, but they might be trapped up top. What you have to consider is the pullback, a good pullback, you don't want it to exceed the last sort of move that it had. So like this last double top here, this was at $1.75. That breakout topped out at $3. So it's like $1.25. In there. So that 125 is important to me. Like I want to see it break away further under the upside and then hold that on the way back in. It puts in a higher low well within that move, and this breakout is now just getting right back into the prior low. So it's given, unlike the last time, like it did, it bottomed out in one day and right back up at the top without a retest. In this particular case, you had a bigger breakout that almost doubled up and pulled right back into the prior high. Now, where this gets interesting is you have a pretty decent candle that it's trying to close on, where you've now held this nice little break from 335, 345, and then at the end of the day, it was consolidating underneath that level and now back above it. Still trending down, but a good first step. I don't like these until they've made a higher low, generally speaking, because all you're doing is you're catching a falling knife. And I'll show you a chart that looks similar to that and what can happen when it continues to move back into the downside. And SMR, because I'm in SMR, I'm going to use the example. I own the stock and I'm in the thing as it's pulling back. So you get that parabolic move, it breaks the trend, tries to hold on to the prior high, loses that prior high, goes into the next one, and now you're in a waiting period. Is it going to hold that prior high? I don't like these till either they get down to a really big bottom like the 200 period, or make a bottom, make some higher lows, and start doing a V-shaped recovery or a rounded bottom. So if I was looking at that stock, I'd be looking for some kind of a rounded bottom, which it's too early to be able to tell. And if you're stuck in it from earlier, no one ever went broke taking profit, and you should always have a target in mind for where you want to take profit and for where you want to get out. So you don't end up in a bag holding situation where it draws down 40, 50%, and you're not sure what to do. Make sure you have a plan of action. Even if it exceeds your expectations to the upside, sometimes you still have to, on the fly, figure out what you want to do next.
Yeah, actually, I want to talk about Cooler a bit too, because I saw that and I actually drew an anchored VWAP. I looked at the chart, showed it to Brian Shannon, also showed it to Obi, who actually showed me how to draw these trading view. But basically, so we had this push up with volume here. That's usually, from what I've heard, where you're supposed to draw these anchored VWAPs. This was on November 25th, and that's when the company announced a Navy contract, which was basically a great catalyst here. We're still above the anchored VWAP, but it looks like we haven't with a couple, this is the 4-hour chart. Save a couple exceptions, we haven't really breached below the 4-hour or below that anchored VWAP. Daily chart as well, we're nicely above the anchored. But the reason I wanted to look at the 4 hours, because I wanted a slightly larger picture. One thing I see, that's potentially a bit concerning, or at least a level to watch out for, is this 350. So look at this top here, this 350 on the 4-hour chart with these higher lows. So we get that breakout. I think that 350 was clearly an area of resistance, but we haven't really held it as support. We had this beautiful bounce here. This would be yesterday. We bounced off that level, but we're kind of below it right now. That being said, we closed the day above it, it looks like. So all hope might not be lost, but I would definitely watch that $3.50 level, because it looks like that is, at least on this 4-hour chart here, a level of potential support and resistance for KULR. In addition to anchored VWAP, was just a shout out. I feel like they're not always going to be, of course, of importance, but it's nice to see how things interact with these levels for sure.
Yeah, and that's sort of the thing. When you're looking at an indicator, you want to make sure, A, does that particular stock follow that indicator? Like, is it respecting it? Because oftentimes, we can like an indicator all we want, but if the stock we're looking at doesn't follow a certain moving average, then it doesn't matter that you happen to use it for your strategy. There was another question in here, and it was about AMD. Where was it? I was trying to find the viewer that said it. It was Jayath in the chat here. Can you please have a look at AMD? So first things first, it's a heck of a lot easier when if you tag me, I know I'm going to ignore it. You have Gurkhan asking about GTI, so hopefully we'll get to GTI as well. But if you tag us, it's just easier to see it. There's a lot of messages that come through. It's easier for us to find. So not to repeat myself on AMD, we don't mind it. I know some viewers probably haven't heard me say this, and others have heard me say this every single day. AMD is in a very distinct downward channel, especially since it tried to break out the 200-period moving average. So, I like to draw trend lines, and I like to see them after a significant level. Holding the 200-period was a big deal. It reverted a move to the downside, held the 200, and made a fresh high. Since that moment, these lows have held a pretty distinct trend. I could draw this a little bit cleaner, but you get the idea. So it's made the same higher highs and higher lows. It's made attempts to break out without actually doing so. So as far as I'm concerned on advanced micro devices, or it's like some people like to say, was it advanced money destroyer?
It is.
It's not really that bad. It's had a bad year, obviously down on the year. But it's now retesting those August Black Monday lows, or whatever you want to call that day. It's retesting that bottom, and it's holding the bottom of this channel. So to me, a day trade is when it gets to the bottom of the trend line, I look for longs, or it gets to a support, I look for a long. If it gets to the top of the trend line, I look for a short. It gets to resistance from under the trend line, I look for a short. I'm not thinking swing long on this until it breaks this channel and closes above and breaks the consolidation higher. That's when I would be a buyer of AMD to look for some kind of a momentum trade. The other way to look at AMD is to consider that the PE is obviously starting to come down, right? So this is what I was talking about with Adobe, where its forward PE is now 19 as it continues to break lower. Well, if it goes any lower and they meet expectations the next quarter, all of a sudden Adobe looks like a great buy. I don't care what the chart says. So AMD's not at that point yet. It's still a little bit expensive, but that's the channel I'm watching on AMD. And then last symbol before I throw it back to you, Adobe, was that GTI. So I will admit to, sometimes you have to be able to, I don't know GTI. I have no idea anything about GraphJet technology, which I just found out the name of because I just read it right now on the chart. So that's the first step, because a lot of times people you want to hear me say something positive about the stock, or that I know, I don't know anything about it, so I can't really tell you that. What I can say about this is sometimes the trend is very, very distinct. Now, it only now is showing a 200-period moving average, so I can't tell you it's been riding that. But if you look at the trend, it looks kind of spicy, because when it lost the 50-period here, this gave you a very distinct downward trend that it's obviously reverted a bit. So the daily chart looks terrible. But what I would say here is, if you weren't tracking this trend line down to try and catch it when it reverted all of these down days, which got more and more shallow, bottoming tail, there's your break, you can have longs as trades here on penny stocks like this. However, I started out as a penny stock trader, and I had a rule. And the rule was, if I was trading a stock like this to the long side and I wasn't in longs in the 30 to 40 range or 30 to 50 range down in here, if it failed $1, I wanted no part of it until it retested down around like these same levels, like 30, 40 cents, where there was buying before. I wanted no part of trying to catch lightning in a bottle at 85 and 90 cents. No, I'd let it regain the dollar level so I had something to work off of. Otherwise, I'd wait for it to get back to the bottom, because the problem with penny stocks is They like to return to penny stock status. Unfortunately, if you just look at most of these charts, it's exactly what they do. So now that it's failed under $1 again, my old rule would have been I'm not touching that thing until it can show me some kind of a double bottom off those prior lows. Maybe you get like the 35, 40 cent level. But yeah, if you don't get the lows, or at least within the first 20, 30% of that move, never a chaser. At least in my history, I try not to do it there. So probably not what you want to hear on GraphChat, but it just lost the $1 level today. So I don't really like it that much.
It's a really interesting point, yeah, and that's why I think one of the cool things about the show is everyone trades really different styles. Like, you and Sharif are really on those penny stocks and those the small caps. It's really interesting to kind of hear perspectives, and yeah, I definitely appreciate that. There's a question here. I don't know if I'm going to be the best at answering it, but I'm going to try because I think it's a great question. I think I found an example here. Julianne here saying, how can you tell the difference between a pullback and a reversal? So I would say the biggest thing to pullback is if you're still holding that support and I guess generally the things that you liked in the uptrend. So one thing that you said to me yesterday that was huge is because I was like, oh, like sometimes when I'm waiting for the stop date, I'm like wondering, is it still worth the trade? And you were like, well, like are your reasons to be there still there? Has the thesis changed? So with that in mind, I want to use an example here of pullback versus reversal on TSLA. This is the 15-minute chart. I mean, also this AVWAP is just AVWAP from the election. It's just chilling there in the background. But we ran, uptrend, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. That we get this chip chop, and we have this breakout here on, I guess, to the 17th, we get this. Then we drop, but look where we drop. We hold previous support. Then we come back again, and we hold previous support. Then we come again, higher lows, and we make a new all-time high. But then things start to change. This is when we get the reversals, when we drop below all of that previous support, and then we actually make a lower high. So for me, it's like, is the thesis change? Have things that you're looking for to see in that trend fundamentally changed, and in that case, that's where you go the difference between like a pullback or buying the pop or selling the pop, I guess, in shorts, and then it becomes something different. Like I talked about that second MSTR short I was in today, where I was like, I know that things have fundamentally changed, at least for my thesis, if we have like these, we're breaking prior bar highs in the 5-minute. So whatever that is, have that in mind before you enter the trade. That's something I'm definitely still working on. And then once you see that change, that's when you, I guess, know you're wrong for that trade, if that makes sense. I would say that's my answer because I think it's a great question. And I want to shout out Noah for the $4.99 super chat. Yeah. Thank you all so much for all you've taught this year. Been trading part-time for 1.5 years. Became profitable in 2024. Thanks to y'all. Shout out to you. Congrats, Noah. Happy New Year to you as well. And thank you to everyone, I guess, for being here with us. And I cannot wait to do more trading and learning next year.
Yeah, shout out to you, Noah. Let's make 2025 better for all of our trading community, but for you as well. Congratulations. I always think that's amazing. And the only example I was going to use on a daily chart for that same thing, you basically nailed it, so I have nothing left. I can just tell you an example. Rigetti, as bad as it today was, for now, this is a pullback because it's held the upward trend and it's still holding some higher lows. I mean, barely, but it is still happening. So that's still an upward trending stock. I think it's the easy way to try to separate them, and that's what we try to do. Thank you, Gurkhan, for the kind words there. Trader Buck, Happy New Year to you as well. Here, I missed, there was another one, and it was a little bit higher before the super chat. Oh, it was Mile High Momo had that, but trying to find where that other question was there. You know what? Now I've probably missed it.
I know
there was one on TD, and I was trying to find it again. But Mile High had a good one here, and he was saying, I like Sharif's rule of needing to reclaim that prior market high again on volume, and that's for a lot of the low float runners, where once it's failed to top and reverted a trend, you want the strength to come back in, and you want it to come back in with volume. Small cappers that regain the high on low relative volume, I think, are usually a trap. And I want to see it showing me that strength again. I don't mind buying under the high, but it better have at least retested that high on volume and show me that buyers are interested. But if you found that TD question, I did miss it. And I didn't want to get to it.
So Eric McCambley here asking, Neil, do you think TD will recover this year from the scandal they had? I have the daily chart up here. And I mean, it's quite the look here of, I guess, let's see where the year started for, because this is 2023. I've gone back a lot here.
Nasty.
2024, yeah, it's honestly pretty range bound this year. But slightly lower highs. We were holding support initially around that 76 level where we actually are right now, which is, I'll have to see if support becomes resistance. But the other support level that we've held more recently, starting, I guess, since that big drop in May, is going to be that 73 halves level. Pretty range bound, though, I would say. But yeah, I think you definitely have more perspective in this than I do.
I think you have to put it into context with TD Bank. because everyone is, if you don't know, Canada's not like the US. We have very few banks, and they all have an oligopoly. So they're very strong. They all perform really well. Pretty much ask anybody in Canada when they have their RSP, and trust me, they've got a Canadian bank in there, usually collecting dividends and doing fantastically. I own 2 of them, one of which I've always been a buyer of because it's my bank, and that's CIBC. One of which I had a friend that worked at, and I started dabbling into TD Bank. I still own some, but I can tell you I have covered the majority of the position. Here is the difference. This is a chart of Royal Bank, and I could pick Bank of Montreal, I could pick somebody else. I'm just going to show you Royal Bank on a weekly chart. That's COVID bottoms. This is right now. Then you go look at TD Bank after the scandal and see what's happening here. Now, don't get me wrong. Somebody likes the stock at $55 or in and around that price level, or maybe they did. But what just happened on TD Bank in the last couple of, right into the end of the year in December? It lost this support, which had been holding right around 53, 54, most of the buying at 55. It lost that support and is consolidating underneath. So regardless of what I might think will happen with TD, of course they can recover. Banks tend to print money. They're not going to completely fail, but they had a lot of U.S. exposure. Now their assets are capped in the U.S., which does limit some of their upside. And if most of the reason why people preferred TD over BMO or CIBC here in Canada was the exposure to the US, and that's now capped, well, they have a bunch of really quality performing banks they can choose from. Unfortunately, so like a lot of things, I need to see the buyers step up. Yes, you've got a bit of a wedge forming, lower highs, lower lows. Once it can make some higher lows, maybe regain that 55, it's a pretty big level. You had to dump it COVID at this price level. You had a consolidation over for the big push up. It needs to get back above $55. It needs to close that 50 period, break this downward trend. A lot has to go right for them. I don't think the time is yet, but I am eyeballing it. I eventually gave up on this thing because it was a wasted opportunity. I won't pull up a chart of CIBC, but when I was buying TD Bank at the 55 level, thinking it was going to be the bottom, and I did it like 2 or 3 times, it just wasn't going, and every other bank was going with it, and I was adding to this silly one. So yeah, eventually I just gave it up when it lost the 50 period the last time. So I ended up, there's opportunities in the market where you look back and your P&L on the actual trade that you make was positive. I use this as an example. I've technically made money on Intel at the levels that I bought it, but you have to consider the opportunity cost. Because I could have been buying CIBC or Royal Bank in that time, something that's performing a heck of a lot better. So it hasn't really been doing that well, and you have to consider that. It's not just your P&L that matters. It's what was the opportunity cost of the trade that I didn't take, or the investment that I didn't make. And then the other thing you have to consider is when a stock works for you, what is it relative to what you would have been if it hadn't worked? Like what was the max it drawed down against you before it worked and you made money? What would have been the stop out and how much you lost? Because let's just say you make 5% on a trade, on a swing trade, but it drew down 10% against you. Should you be celebrating that? What if your stop was 10% lower and you took it all out for 7%? Should you really be celebrating that? Maybe you've got a strategy where that works, but you have to consider all these things in concert. It's somehow already 4:30 because
Ow.
I am always rambling on. Last one here. Scott Angel asking nuclear energy in 2025. I like energy next year. So I actually think traditional can be good. I think Oxy's starting to look a heck of a lot better. I think you're starting to see some bombs. You saw it with nat gas. I don't like nat gas because I won't touch it. But I think you're starting to see some bombs. And nuclear in particular, these hyperscalers are all interested in finding new ways to power these energy demands. If they're not if Microsoft and Google and Amazon and Meta, if they're not cutting back on CapEx spending, these massive data centers, then they have to find a way for these increasing power supplies. And they all seem to like to invest in these small modular reactors and finding a new way with nuclear to get that power. So I don't think the move is done. I'm just looking for a spot to get back into both SMR and then URA. So I do think that has a good chance for next year. SMR has been on a bit of a pullback. We already sort of talked about that one. Down around like $17. I'm in at $13.30-ish. It's like $13.23 or something like that. I did take some out in the 25 range when it got to a double up. essentially, but I'm looking for a place to add back in, and it's a long-term play. Like, I think it's a shot play because I figure if one of these really figures it out, then they could be an absolute banger. But you know what time it is?
I do. Roll call.
The
So
final
excited.
roll call of the year, Adara.
Yes.
So I'll try to do this a little faster than I usually do. This is a time of the day where you have an opportunity to get your name read out in the chat, in the roll call, but you have to be in the chat if you want to do so. So make sure you hit that subscribe, jump into the chat. I always say, give thanks to somebody on the team. How about wish a happy new year to Ramin on the 1s and 2s, to Fabian, who's already taken off, to Adrian, who does our fantastic, well, not Adrian, Adrian, my roommate. Oh, Andre. Let's mix him up with my roommate from university. Andre on our socials. Give a shout out to Obi filling in for Sean. Give a shout out to Brendan. Give a shout out to the Midday Boys, Sharif and Joseph. Give a shout out to Adara for that fantastic trade today. And of course, for doing the roll call. And shout out to Bears versus Bulls. And a happy new year to you, the best moderator. Or just give yourselves a shout out. Happy new year to yourselves.
Shout out to everybody. Yeah, thank you so much. Neil, we had Sean, who was actually trading next to me today, which was pretty fun and very different. So shout out to Sean. Shout out to Obi. Shout out to Joe and Sharif. Shout out to Fabian, Ramin, and Andre, and Brendan, who will be back soon. Shout out to Bears versus Bulls, who was saying apes forever or something in the chat. So shout out to AMC. Shout out to the apes. Shout out to the GME people. Shout out to Noah, Brainor, Bala, Chris, Beekwater, Relo, De Reloha. We have Damian Tarza, Noah, Paul, Neil Roberts, Bristol, Valerie B, Manimal, Bala, Ronaldo, Crypto FOMO, D. Westermeyer in the chat here, Trader Leah in the chat, Melly Mel Urich, Viper, I like the Melly Mel reference, Viper Trader, The One, Joseph Brown, Prather Farm Fam, Mr. Moon, Saad Zaman, Scott Angel, DL Grubbs, Midnight in the Ocean, Mile High Momo, Pitch Bull, Bright Awakening, Michelle Muir, John Von Stowers, John D. Pietro, By the Drip. I gotta stop with that. But thank you guys so much to everyone for being here. Because you know what? We're actually gonna be back on Thursday.
Yes.
So whether or not you're gonna be charting throughout the whole new year or sleeping, whatever you do, we'll be back on Thursday. And we hope to see you there as well.
Yeah, we're going to be right back. It's going to be a short hiatus. Remember, the market is closed tomorrow. Actually, I should give a Happy New Year's to D. Westamar, our friend there in the chat. Also, a Happy New Year's to your son, Ruben. And thank you for sharing the picture of your cute son. Thank you so much for that. It was a pleasure meeting you. And we love all of our community. One thing I will say, as you are enjoying your new year, everybody drink responsibly. Uber is a thing. Public transit, most places, is obviously going to be free. I know a lot of places do that. So just make sure you arrive home safe. We want to see everybody back here ready to kick butt in 2025. So enjoy yourselves. We'll be back on Thursday. Happy New Year to the entire Trader TV Live community, and we'll see you in 2025.
Thank you so much, guys. See you soon.